way, there are, those times when you see a name on your phone and you just know that something's up because that person just never would call you at that moment. Something's happening. So at 2:40 something or other, whatever it was, 2:50, I see Rod Babers' name on my phone in a break and I realize, oh, okay, Rod may be experiencing some of that good old Austin traffic. And he is. So Rod Babers is on his way. Patrick, have we been able to figure out exactly what he's encountering to maybe we can use it to help other people out there?
There's apparently a wreck somewhere on either Mopac, I believe on Mopac, south in that 71 area. So I believe there's a wreck there. So that is causing massive backups is what it appears.
So Mopac, Ben White.
Yes.
Very first time there would have ever been a wreck there.
Yeah,
It's the cleanest intersection in town.
What could ever go wrong there?
Never.
It's never busy.
Never a thing. It never, ever goes wrong there. Rod is on his way, should be here in just a few minutes. Mike Harge continues his vacation, and I apologize for not being able to let the beginning of the show bake the way it normally does. There's normally that wonderful long intro, and then Rod comes in, and they've got the great intros and all that stuff for each other. We don't have all of that yet today, but I do hope somebody, if you're a fan of this show, I hope you have tuned in to the YouTube channel. By the way, thanks to for helping us get over 1,000 subscribers. Or maybe go to the Twitch cameras, however you deal with the show visually, to see those guys cleaning this studio every day.
Yeah.
Patrick, I don't think people understand the level that Harge is a clean man. Harge will clean a little. But Rod Babers' dedication to the full wipe down of this studio since COVID began is remarkable.
But I think he was pre-COVID, too. He was doing cleaning pre-COVID. It wasn't, I don't know if it was full on what it is now. So he was already always cleaning. Come in, and I get it. These studios get disgusting.
They do, yeah.
Especially you come in after a weekend, and you're like, "Do we have barn animals in here?"
I'm glad you said weekend. I thought you were about to say, especially if you come in after Chad. I mean,
no,
he's a dirty bastard. So.
No, only when y'all were doing dares and stuff, and there may be some spilled milk.
That could happen. Yes, yeah. The day I tried to eat all the donuts was not good. I didn't yak in here, but it was not pretty. So that is an impressive thing if you've never seen it. Rod does dedicate himself to all of that. And obviously, Rod also dedicates himself to the incredible show content that will be provided as soon as he gets here. Patrick is here, as I mentioned, and this all is going to work out because a little later in the week, I was going to ask both you and Rod to jump on with me. Yeah. So now I feel like I might get a yes.
Yeah, you might get a yes.
This is exciting.
Maybe. No, I'm always here during your show anyway. I'm doing other business in the office.
Yes.
So it's easy to get me because you just have to stick your head out of the studio and say, "Hey, what's up?"
Right.
It's much easier, but we'll come in anytime you need me. We'll come in, and since you're helping us out right now, I can't tell. We will talk the College World Series today. We'll go into how that was not this much of a fun game as we are hoping for last night. But you know what? It was a good College World Series. Going into, we got some Trent Dilfer sound.
Okay.
That's coming up. Some good stuff there. Talk some MLB. Are you getting ready for the big series this weekend?
I absolutely don't know what you're referencing, so I guess that's a no.
Rangers.
Oh,
Friday
Astros
through Sunday.
Rangers.
They're doing that series this Sunday. Are you ready for that series?
I'm always ready for that one. Actually, this year
they're both over 500.
Yeah, this year
this is an actual thing this year.
I feel good about it this year. What is it? A silver boot? A silver something or other?
Yeah, I think it's a silver boot. It never mattered. It has never mattered since the Astros moved to AL. They have not been good on the same level.
Oh, no, the Astros.
And now they're actually competing for the division.
The Astros have crushed the Rangers overall. Although, even though in the last couple of years, there were some years where even though the Astros were killing it, the Rangers would find a way to win a few, maybe make it sort of close. But that one, Arlington or Houston for the weekend?
I believe Arlington.
Okay.
I believe they're at the Gilf.
Yeah, I love the fact that it's equalized in terms of weather. That's great. Everybody's indoors. And now you got the Rangers up in the division. So, yeah, for the first time in a while, Ranger fans getting a little hungry for a July series.
Yeah.
With the Astros.
I mean, this is hopefully Altuve will be back for it. I know he got knocked out in that Dodgers series, bruised his heel jumping at a base. I believe on the bunt that was supposed to be a sac bunt, he beat out the pitcher. Classic Altuve.
He's out again?
So, yeah, but he bruised his heel. So they're basically giving him a little break.
Okay.
We know Yordan Alvarez is out.
Yep.
And, yeah, they have a ton of injuries right now.
Yeah, that part is really rough for them. And I've said it before. I try to be – I'm born and raised Ranger fan. That's the way I always be. But I also try to be the type of fan that doesn't root for injuries.
Yeah.
I want to beat the best version possible. So I'd like to see the Astros get healthy at some point and and be able to make it the kind of fight it needs to be. The other team, of course, that factors in is the Angels. And as I pull up the rankings, it's 5 games each for Astros and Angels behind the Rangers. Crazy, man. Heading to July as a Rangers fan with a 5-game division lead. It's
as an Astros fan to be like, oh, there's competition in our division.
Yeah, right.
Usually Seattle tries to put up a fight, but that's about it.
And for Angels fans, that it matters at all.
Yeah, well, Angels fans, I think this has got to suck because you're like, we know Ohtani's leaving. You're like 95% sure Ohtani's gone. So this whole thing is one for the road, and then you're losing the best player in baseball.
So maybe you I guess the only thing you do there, and this has been true for baseball fans for years and years. By the way, half game out for each of those teams, Astros and Angels, half game out of the wild card at this moment. But you just have to soak up every bit of it you can, knowing that, he probably moves on. But like yesterday, I had Aaron Hogan on the 12 to 3 show, knowing how much of a baseball head he is. And I was talking about Ohtani, and I said, are we past that point now where we can compare him to Babe Ruth? Because I've had the thoughts of, oh, my God, is there going to be a moment where we'll say he's even surpassed all of that? Are we already there is kind of the question. He doesn't have 7 titles, and he doesn't have that brand name and all that kind of stuff. But in terms of being that kind of two-way talent, Is he already in his own category?
It's that weird look because if you look at it and you're like, if Babe Ruth played now, he wouldn't be able to get on the field probably. Like, he was so talented, but it's just like, it's such a different game. He'd have to go work out and stuff. You couldn't play with the amount of laziness he had.
True.
You couldn't eat hot dogs between innings.
Right.
You couldn't do that anymore.
Right. And
so Ohtani is so far the difference of that.
Yeah, exactly.
Where he's like, no, I train very hard. I do speed training and all this other stuff. And so on that scale, you're like, well, yeah, Ohtani's miles past him in that. But then when just impact on the game, if you take away the era and everything else, then probably not.
Right.
He's got to go.
Because Babe's got him on all that stuff.
Yeah, because you got to win.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we see that with Dame Lillard right now. What's Dame Lillard's legacy going to be if he doesn't ever make a real run in the playoffs?
Right.
Like, not even win a title, but never make a real run.
Yeah, that's true. You could be the best two-way baseball player that ever existed on the planet, but then did you ever have a postseason run?
Yeah, because
that changes it.
Even like Charles Barkley and Reggie Miller get you played in the same era as Michael Jordan. Like Patrick Ewing, even to an extent. You get some guys and you're like, look, we get it. You never won a title, but you had those runs, you had those seasons where if there wasn't a Michael Jordan, you would have been a champion. And with Dame, you're like, there's not that guy anymore that you can go, well, no, you didn't have a shot because enough people have won. And they've never made that run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, they haven't. It's really weird. Also, by the way, if you're going to compare then and now and they'll get the full Babe Ruth discussion, also remember the advancements we've had in sex education, in protection, and in the ointments for chlamydia. You realize that too, right? Like, you have to factor that in because that version of Babe Ruth didn't know what this version would know. Babe Ruth would know a lot more.
But would he have cared?
That's a whole other issue. I don't know how we compute that, but he'd have been a little bit. He'd been slightly more buff. He'd have been like a in shape John Daly type. That's how I view him.
Yeah, you wouldn't have been Bartolo Colon.
No, maybe a little slimmer. Maybe a little slimmer than that. Yeah, the Ohtani stuff is just unbelievable.
Yeah, no, it's fun. It's cool to have this division right now. And we'll see after the All-Star break because you figure one of these teams, and I'm hoping it's not the Astros, you're hoping it's not the Rangers, one of these teams is going to fall off. There is a question of, do they sell Ohtani when he's at his highest? And the Angels, and you're like, I know we're making a run and all, but we'll never get the value we will get for him if we wait. And because in the offseason, he's just gone.
Are they getting crowds? I haven't even looked at numbers.
I assume you're getting some crowds.
Like, I would too. I think
especially if you're an Angels fan, you're like, this is the last chance I'm going to see him here.
Don't you have to play that hand? Like, if I'm ownership, that's the hand I would try to play. I get the idea of whatever he's going to make out there or whatever. But if you're really in it, you're really in the thing, I would lean on, let's give these fans the ride. And then if you somehow ended up with this incredible journey and they won, let's say they won it all. Let's say they get all the way to the World Series. Maybe they even win the thing. Well, it's not like they are Seattle back in the day. Like, they might be able to at least try to put something together.
Yeah.
Right? They're not a nobody. They have paid guys before. So
they're paying a ton of guys.
Yeah. So, but maybe, I don't know. If they went through it and he got even more connected, would he be the kind of guy that might say, hey, maybe, I don't know, the team I like discount, a little hometown discount
or
in Anaheim.
I'll give you a shorter deal.
There you go.
So you're not necessarily so pot committed that I want the 12-year,
right?
I want the lifetime deal. I want the Albert Pujols.
Yeah, let's do some badass 2 to 5 year deal.
Yeah,
and we'll make it happen.
There's people that are saying like he's one that there's going to be numbers. Someone will say he's going to make $1 billion in this deal. Like that's where the numbers. Some people are saying the numbers will go, but you say it's what $400, $500, $600 million you're going to invest minimum.
Yeah,
to get him back. So that's where I think it's where they just may go, look, we don't want to keep Trout anymore. We're going to try and reset a little bit. We've spent way too much money and been too bad. Even though we got 2 generational talents. It would be interesting. I mean, I'd prefer him not to go to the Yankees or Dodgers.
Yeah, you and me both.
I prefer that. Anywhere else, I'm okay with.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you on that.
But
on both of those teams.
I don't want them to get him and then pretend that they drafted him and did all this work. And you're like, you just paid him the most. Stop pretending these are homegrown guys. He was always a Yankee. No, he wasn't.
He's one of our guys. He's one of ours. That's Patrick Davis. I'm Chad Hastings, hanging out till Rod Babers gets here. Rod is coming through traffic right now in the great city of Austin. Something going on Mopac today. Big shock, right? He is on his way. The Specs text line always there for you, 337-3776. Someone texted, Chad should give the Ball Don't Lie audience the breast milk story.
Oh, we talked about this on the show not that long ago.
Yeah, somebody texted me. I was a friend of mine, I think it was a friend or coworker texted me about breast milk.
So did you hear about Josh Hart? Josh Hart tweeted out that he was asking for a friend if they had ever drank in their partner's breast milk.
Right.
And so we were discussing it, and then I think one of the texters texted in and was like, we didn't know if it was you or somebody else had done it on the show. And then they were like, no, Chad did it.
Yeah, I think there was. Yeah, so back in the day, so we had as I recall the situation, it was, the breast milk, and I believe it was Kevin Dunn, being such a food snob, said no immediately, I think, to the idea.
That was the food snob thing.
That was it.
Man, I like Taco Bell. I said no, too.
I think Kevin was against it at first. Who knows? But Kevin's the kind of guy that watched all that Anthony Bourdain and the dude that would go out and eat cow livers and stuff. So I can't honestly remember if Kevin tried it. So, Kevin, if you're out there, let me know. But I did try it once and I can't remember if it was like, I think I got permission. I had to get permission, obviously, from him.
Yeah.
From the guy and the wife. And then once I knew that was okay, I got permission from my wife. I'm like, are you okay with it? Hey, it's a little bit of radio thing.
Yeah.
Would you be okay? And I think the response came back with, I don't care if you want to try it. It sounds gross, but whatever. And, it was.
So it was a text conversation for approval.
That's true. It was a text approval.
Yeah, I feel like that needed to be an in-person conversation.
You think I needed to go home?
No, I think the next day you'd been like, hey, we'll do this tomorrow.
Yeah.
But I need to talk to my wife because I need to see her face when I ask her.
Yeah, that probably would have been a better idea.
I need to make sure that when I say that, her face is not like, oh, he knows better than to do this, right?
Yeah, I think that those are the details I'm not recalling. I don't recall if there was a face-to-face. I'm not.
Is this for court documents later? I no recollection of those conversations.
Yeah, I'm going back to the Reagan years of I just don't recall. I just don't know. It was a little strange, clearly, but yes, I believe I did. I did try it back in the day.
You did try it? Was it just regular milk or? Could you tell?
It was, it tasted like that. The first time you taste milk that is better for you, but it doesn't quite taste as good as you'd like it to taste on your cereal. That's what it tasted
well,
like.
let me ask you, are you a regular milk drinker just in general?
Yeah, like 2%. I mean, I grew up
like
on
a glass or just cereal?
a glass now.
I don't know if I've had a glass of milk in the last 5-10
years.
I
try to stay away from all of it as much as I can because I'm so damn old now. But yeah, back in the day, it was whole milk and half when I was a kid, and then it went from that to 2%. So yeah. If me as a 2% milk drinker tries like soy milk, almond milk, something like that, where I go, oh wow, you can definitely taste that it's much cleaner and nicer and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's all right. I just don't know. I would have no basis now if I were to try it. I'd be like, I haven't had milk in probably close to a decade. A glass of milk. I've had it in cereal or whatever, but not just a glass of milk. So I wouldn't even have anything to base it off of. But if you're a regular milk drinker, then you would know.
Yeah, no, it's a bit of a different thing, but it's just one of those things. You want to be able to taste the superfood, and I've tasted what the superfood tasted like.
You got all consent from your wife?
I did.
All partners involved on the other side too?
Yeah.
See, this is the problem though. He got consent from his wife via text. This is an in-person approval, right?
It's a modern era. It's very personal.
You gotta see the face.
Yeah. You could do that because his wife knows he's by trade. He's a bit of a exhibitionist. Like because he's on the radio, so she knows. She knows his co-host. Okay. He's a bit guy.
And the fresh milk was not guaranteed to be there the next day.
All right, that's true.
The bit was the bit that day.
How long does breast milk last? Do we know this?
Yeah, I mean you can't.
I don't know how long it lasts.
Once you're there, as I recall, once you're there and it's like in the bottle and you're ready to feed.
What did you taste it from? What was the apparatus did you use? Did you use?
Oh, I think it was just like the
nipple.
They had a bottle and put it on the finger, and that was it.
I love that it was in a bottle. Still, it's still in the bottle. You have to put it in like a glass.
I wanted to just like lay down and you really get comfortable,
That's
but
very
I didn't.
Fetish-like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, right, exactly. It was a little weird. It was a little strange.
Well, it actually is worth a lot of money on the black market.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
Yes, tons of money.
It is an amazing thing because when the kid is doing nothing but the breast milk,
just suckling.
The way when you first started, when you're changing diapers during that period, you don't realize it's a miracle food. You don't realize it then, but man, when you start dealing with other human foods, you run back to your wife and say, okay, let's talk about this breast milk thing again. Let's talk about breastfeeding. I think we need to breastfeed till she's 5. What do you think?
You know what? Some people my wife's mom is actually a breastfeeding specialist, and she's obsessed. Like she wants you to do it as long as possible. You should do it as long as possible.
Yeah.
And basically have it where it almost is uncomfortable.
Right.
Like she believes in that. It's like that much of a miracle food. I took myself off the teat when I was young. I don't drink milk.
Is that right?
I haven't drank milk and I'm 42 now. I probably haven't drank milk in 40 years. 41 years. I'm not joking. Like my mama told me I took myself off the teat as a child and I was like, I'm done. Wow. Like you can have that. You can keep it for yourself. It's been a minute.
Were your first
I can imagine the kind of athlete I would be if I kept consistently on the teat.
The injuries you would have had.
I would have been.
Bones.
I mean, I could have been unbelievable.
Dude, they could have run over you with tractors, and you'd have been fine.
You would have measured out at the right heights.
Exactly. Come on, man. I'd have been like Ricky the Dragon Steamboat.
Was your first complete sentence, "Ma, I said no white condiments"? Is that the first thing you ever said?
No, but my mom will tell you that she told my wife the story too. Like, no,
he pushing it away.
He rejected it. And she said at first she was hurt. She was upset, and she talked to me. She said he rejected it. He was like, no, I'm done. Please.
Oh my
I don't want it. So there you go. I mean, but I do know it's a miracle food, and I appreciate you sitting on.
Hey, man,
right,
not a problem. Everything clearly is not good out there. Did they get it cleared up?
It was on Mopac heading north right before you get to 360. There was a wreck of some kind. I'm not sure exactly what was going on. Usually, my drive to work is pretty good. I leave the house in plenty of time, and usually I sit out, in the parking lot, hang out, got plenty of time to run, do stuff and get ready for the show. Not today. So,
okay.
Once again, I judge poorly when it comes to the Austin traffic.
All right, well, I'm going to go get in some of that Austin traffic.
Yeah, that's one thing, you know what? I'll admit, I've never in my life, because of this job, had to sit in Austin traffic consistently.
It's crazy.
Because I've always had an afternoon show.
Yeah.
So I never have to deal with the morning traffic unless I got an errand to run or some meeting. And I never have to deal with the evening traffic because I'm always doing a show during that time. And I will admit, God help all you people.
Yeah.
Well,
That's the case for me.
Wow.
Yeah, outside of the days when I have to sit here because Rod Babers is in traffic, I'm good. I usually am able to get out before it gets started.
Yeah, before it gets crazy. But I'll admit, I apologize. So now I got you in it. So I will try to entertain you while you deal with all the road. Because the road rage is like it's unbelievable. It overcomes you.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? That's why I tell people try to avoid the road rage, because road rage does lead to accidental racism. We all become a little racist in our cars, and we profile people because of the cars they drive, which is dangerous. We don't want to be those people. So avoid the road rage. That way you won't go down the dark path of accidental racism.
You know my trick for how you deal with road rage? When you get mad, start to yell at them in a British accent. It's really hard to stay mad. It's really hard to stay mad when you do it.
That's a great idea.
Yeah,
I love that.
You just have to do accents, and then your brain's like, well, look at us.
That's an interesting theory.
So choose any accent. You're saying
anything
British
where you're just going to start laughing, and then people look at you like a maniac when they look over in traffic, and you're smiling and laughing, but still yelling.
They'll probably be more afraid of you.
Let me try that on, see how that works. You idiots! Are you actually cutting me off? Are you? Yeah, it does. It makes you kind of happy as you're doing it.
You should do Scottish guy. Scottish guy should have road rage.
No, see, that's going to make it way worse.
Scottish.
That'll make it way worse. It's a left turn, you bastard! It's a left. See, that's going to get worse. That's going to get way worse.
That's what I think we should do that. That's what we should do. The Scottish guy doing traffic updates and in road rage form. That's what the people want to hear.
Oh, that would be good. That would make them long for traffic.
Yeah,
then.
Hey, thank you very much, brother. I appreciate you sitting in.
I'll be listening, fellas.
Yeah, no doubt. Appreciate Chad sitting in. Yeah, a little traffic, Mageddon. I appreciate all you guys who are in traffic right now listening. Usually I get to avoid the traffic because, like I said, the hours, that's one of the perks to the job. Today I cannot avoid it. So
that's whenever we do a baseball game that starts early and we get out at like 5:35, and you're like, man, we're getting out early. And then as soon as you get on the road, you're like, I forgot.
Yeah, exactly. No, really. I was so upset, and I was like, what the hell's going on? And I realized, like, why am I so upset? Because I haven't been in traffic in ages. I just don't really have to sit in traffic very often. So, like I said, once again, I admire you folks out there that do it every day. That's got to be a drain. I'm not going to lie. That's a drain. I don't have to sit in traffic every day. Some people do it every day of their life. Yeah. This is why, they say there's a movement in this country where people don't want to go back to work, to the physical office building. A lot of it's because of traffic. I guarantee you half of it's because I don't want to sit in traffic multiple times a day.
I mean that and putting on pants. Those two things about equal.
Well, I agree. You know what? Put no pants. That does. I got jammy pants though. If it's jammy pants, you're good.
Yeah, but you can't go to work and you're not going to work in that.
I don't say.
That's what I'm saying. You have to put on responsible adult pants to leave the house. And
uncomfortable pants.
Yeah, and you're like, I don't like this.
That's true. Yeah, you got the jammy pants on. You're good. I can get all types of work done. I do actually. A lot of prep for this show is done with jammy pants on, and everybody can't do that. So that's upsetting too. So yeah, it does. Austin does have the third worst traffic in Texas, in the state, behind Dallas and Houston. And honestly, some stretches of it are worse than some stretches of Houston. I'm from Houston, I can tell you that, because Austin is a perfect traffic Mageddon for a lot of reasons. Shout out to Evo Mopak because his witty observations kind of walk us through it. But it's a college town, so a college town and a true metropolis, right? So a college town on top of that, and college kids. I mean, that's the reason. You get basically penalized for trying to rent a car when you're under 25. It's tough to get insurance when you're under 25 because they know you guys are terrible drivers when you're under 25. You just are. And they're getting worse.
And everybody's a terrible driver now because everyone has a phone.
That is true. See, that's the thing. Just distracted driving in our day and age makes everybody a bad driver. And young people are especially distracted by their phones and driving. So that's a big part of it. And one of my random theories about why young drivers are getting worse and are not getting better progressively is because the mental reps we used to take when we sat in the back seat of the car and you used to watch your mom and dad drive, that was like the only thing you could do. You didn't have a damn phone. You
just head laid against the window.
Yeah, you just sit there and you watch Pops drive or watch Moms drive and you listen to them cuss and get road rage and upset. And it kind of taught you how to drive. It was a mental rep. Kids these days do not take mental reps for driving. They don't even pay attention to mom and dad driving or whoever the hell's driving. They have no idea what's going on. That's a big part of it too. And I mean, Austin's a great town, and I don't know what the number is, but a lot of the people that live in Austin ain't from this city. So they all take the same routes to go everywhere. People like you who were born here, Patrick, you guys know how to get everywhere through every different type of shortcut.
Certain areas, But then, like, I grew up in Northwest Austin, and now if I go up there, I'm like, this is all different.
But the streets should be the same, right?
But like the main roads and everything, now I'll miss exits because they're like, oh no, this is the exit, and then this is a free one, this is a toll road. You gotta get here, and you take that, and then you in the wrong lane. You're in the middle lane. You need to be in the far left to turn right. I know it doesn't make sense, but you got to do it.
No, you're right. That's true. And Austin is terribly engineered in terms of the city planning perspective.
Yeah. No, we basically engineer to
be a small town,
to be only 5 years behind what we needed by the time it's done, and then immediately have to go back to the drawing board and go, hey, how about we plan for what it is right now for a project that'll be done in 10 years?
Yeah,
you're right. That's not.
No, you're right.
Let's think forward.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. They was small-time city planning because they never were thinking 10, 20 years in the future. It was always thinking, hey, what about what's good for right now? It's like, no, good for right now. That's not city planning. Good for 10, 20 years down the line.
Hey, that on-ramp, how long do you want that ramp to be? I don't know, 4 feet? They can merge in 4 feet,
there's
right?
one of those on 35 that is just, it's hellacious. I don't drive 35 anymore if I can avoid it.
I try to avoid it.
But now Mopac is getting just as bad as 35. It used to be like Mopac was a little bit better than 35 and still maybe, but I haven't seen that. I don't see 35 unless I absolutely have to.
Yeah.
Like it must be something that's right off 35. Otherwise, there's another way to get there. I'll go Mopac and take the other streets because 35, you just, oh man. It's unbearable. It's a traffic Mageddon. But anyway, my point is I admire you folks who sit in every day, and we dedicate ourselves to trying to ease and alleviate your road rage you got to deal with. So we apologize. Apologize for being late, but unavoidable. Man, I don't do that. I don't think I've been late in a long time on the show because of traffic.
That's what Chad was saying. It's like when we get a phone call from you at 15 minutes before the show, we're like, oh, something's not right.
Oh, yeah. It's been a long, long time. I tried to avoid that if at all necessary. But so my apologies. Thanks to Patrick. Thanks to my man Chad for doing a great job. Great team we got around here. All right. So we're going to basically audible here because I wanted to get to some stuff in the first segment we won't be able to get to. So we'll talk some baseball, but we'll talk College World Series as well, but also what Shohei Ohtani's doing. You got to be kept abreast of what Shohei is doing. All right? There ain't no better story in sports right now than Shohei. Hell, ain't no sports going on right now except for Major League Baseball, and the biggest story in Major League Baseball is Shohei. So we'll get into that. So a heavy baseball discussion. We'll talk Astros, Cardinals, Rangers with the disappointing loss last night to the Tigers. I'll tell you why, Rangers fans, don't be upset about that loss last night. Don't be upset at all. And I'll tell you why it happened. I've been in some situations like that myself. So we'll talk heavy baseball in the next segment right here at Ball Don't Lie, 104.9 The Horn. Welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. Top of the charts Tuesday. That's my man Patrick Plays Jams. I reached the top of the Billboard charts on this day in history. And this day in history, shout out to my man CB, who actually reminded me, June 27th, didn't reach the top of the Billboard charts, but anybody who's a screwhead or grew up in H-Town or is a Third Coast rap fan, they know about June 27th and what it means in the Screwston world. So I'm a screwhead. I grew up right down the street from the screw shop. I actually used to go down, ride my bike down there, go get some screw tapes. When I first got to Texas, I was still jamming screw tapes. I actually got mocked and made fun of. I know this because my man Tillman Holloway told me so. Because I would walk around campus with my Walkman jamming screw because they had them still on the gray tapes. And he actually traded me a Discman for my Walkman. And the condition of him trading the Discman, I've told this story on the show before, was that he could smash my Walkman in front of me. And I was like, why you want to smash my Walkman? Why can't I just keep the Walkman? If you're going to smash it, mom's let me keep it. He's like, no, man. They're making fun of you behind your back about your Walkman. They're talking about you. I was like, the Walkman wasn't like obsolete technology in 99 when I got to Texas. But apparently the Discman, it was that much of a movement and a phenomenon that people were mocking me because I was still one. But it wasn't necessarily because I didn't have money to buy a Discman. I'm sure I could have gotten one. Mom and dad were, doing all right. But it was because I wanted to jam the screw tapes. So even after Tillman Holloway destroyed my Walkman, I went and bought another one so I could jam the screw tapes that I had. Because by then they weren't converted to CD. They converted them later, like a couple of years later, they converted them to CD and it was all good. But that's why. So that's my random story with June 27. And I'm sure June 27 was one of those screw tapes that I had. So shout out to the screw heads out there. Even Patrick knows what June 27th is all about.
Yeah.
Somebody on the text line says, hold up. Yeah, I know. So, Robbie, you going to bust out your freestyle? No. My freestyle, I'm scared to freestyle because I'm scared I'm going to drop too many F-bombs and expletives. Yeah. When you're freestyling, it's hard to really control that. You just go on freestyle.
Yeah.
You
all of a sudden you talk about ducks.
Yeah, exactly. you don't want to do that. Also, in regards to our traffic conversation, because we were talking about traffic, that's why you boy was a little bit late. Someone says Austin traffic is more complicated because of the balconies fault in the hills west of Mopac. It's completely flat in Houston and Dallas, so you can't build a loop here. Another texter reiterate the same thing. Austin doesn't have a true loop like 610 or 410. Yes, Houston's got two of them. I believe they got 610, and then Beltway 8 is another loop. So you got a smaller loop and then a bigger loop, and then everything else is east, west, north, south. So you're right about Austin. Austin does not have that. Everything just kind of runs east and south. All right, let's get to some baseball conversation here. Let's start with the World Series finale last night. LSU wins the national title 18-4. I mean, it wasn't really a compelling game last night. But LSU is compelling in a lot of ways, at least the baseball team is. First of all, you got to talk about them having so much, a wealth of talent, including the player of the year, Dylan Cruz, he's got some freaky stats for you. Dylan Cruz, who won the Golden Spikes Award, fourth player to win the Golden Spikes Award and the national title in the same year. He might be, and some people right now say he's trending toward being the number one overall pick. 426 batting average, 18 home runs, 70 RBIs. He reached base in 71 straight games this year and how about this? He's on a pace he set a record for 75 game streak of reaching base to end his career. So yeah, that's some freaky stuff. He and Tommy White, they call him Tommy Tanks. They were the first pair of teammates in SEC history to score 100 runs and drive in 100 runs in a season. And Paul Skeens, who was the Air Force transfer, and also Tommy White, who transferred from NC State, along with Thatcher Hurd. Those were three players they acquired via the transfer portal, all starters for LSU. A lot of people believe that pushed them over the top in terms of the overall talent, that they were the best team in the country, and they definitely showed that in the College World Series. Jay Johnson, the LSU manager, had an interesting comment, and this was actually after they beat Wake Forest. This was not recently. This was a few days ago after they beat Wake Forest on their way to going to the College World Series finale. Jay Johnson made a comment, and this is something I think Texas baseball fans probably need to heed. This comment here. Here is Jay Johnson after they played Wake Forest and beat them, talking about what maybe has made the difference for LSU baseball this season.
And lastly, look to my left. If you're one of the best players in the transfer portal, there's only one place to come play. Because last summer I spent a lot of time with these young men, and I think they would tell you they made the right choice. So I'd want to join forces with them if they're out there.
All right, there you go. I mean, he basically said anybody in the portal, and everybody knows the portal, talking about the portal is basically talking about NIL. They're inextricably linked. We know that. That's just free market hitting college sports. And this honestly kind of reminded me, maybe I'm just kind of sick-minded here. The first image that came to mind when I heard Jay Johnson on the post-game podium giving that kind of call to arms in the transfer portal for LSU baseball kind of reminded me of Suge Knight at the Source Awards.
I'd like to tell Tupac to keep his guards up. We ride with him. And one other thing I'd like to say, any artist out there want to be an artist and want to stay a star and don't want to have to worry about the executive producer trying to be all in the videos, all on the record, dancing, come to Death Row.
That's LSU right now. LSU baseball. They're like, hey, you want to get in transfer portal? You want to win some championships? You want to play for championships? You want to make that straight cash, homie? Come to LSU. And I wasn't being critical of Texas baseball, but it was just the observation. And from the article that I read at the Austin Business Journal, based on their research, Texas baseball was 10th in NIL compensation, the most recent, and this is as of May. So as of May, based on the Austin Business Journal's research and their reporting, men's baseball was 10th out of all the Texas sports in NIL compensation. They were behind football number 1, men's basketball number 2, softball, shout out to the ladies, number 3, women's swimming and diving number 4, women's basketball number 5, men's swimming and diving number 6, women's volleyball number 7, men's golf 8, men's track and field 9, and Texas baseball 10. They are considered a blue blood. Out of all the sports on this list here, men, now swimming and diving, they're the bluest of blue blood. So I see why swimming and diving is doing their thing, and so is football. But baseball should be higher. I'm not saying that they should overtake, women swimming and diving or even women's basketball, but they should be higher than 10th on this list. And LSU's manager is just basically telling you, hey, in the NIL arms race, specifically in baseball, we winning.
Yeah.
We winning. Yeah.
We got the guys that are going to pay you. So if you want to transfer, come on down.
Come on, exactly. It really was like it was a Suge Knight call to arms.
Hey, man, this is the best thing this is the most legal way I can say this.
Exactly.
But I'm not talking to y'all in the transfer portal. I'm talking to y'all that are thinking about the transfer portal. Hop on in and give me a call.
Exactly. Right? That's basically what he said. And they got 3, and it worked out for all 3. Right, everybody's draft stock improved. It helped LSU win a national title, so it was a win-win for everybody. And recently, I just saw Wake Forest had 2 pitchers hit the transfer portal. Hell, man, they just were a couple of games shy of making it to the finale themselves. Yeah. 2 pitchers are not pitchers. Sorry, 2 players. I think I said pitcher. 2 players hit the transfer portal. One hit 13 home runs, the other hit 10. So they had 2 players hit the transfer portal. Tennessee had a pitcher, Chase Burns, who hit the transfer portal. Guy supposed to has 103 mile per hour stuff. As a freshman, he was legit. 2.91 ERA, 8-2 record. Slowed down, maybe regressed a little bit last season, but still highly coveted. He's hitting the transfer portal because you won't know your worth until you hit the transfer portal and the free market tells you.
Yeah.
And that's what he wants to do. And
I mean, you're going to get some phone calls before, or maybe, a high school coach may tell you that, hey, I just heard through the grapevine that you're worth about this much.
I'm glad you brought that up, Patrick, because Trent Dilfer, because these topics are related. Because, like I said, the NIL law of the land and, of course, the arms race going on in our world is inextricably linked with the transfer portal. When you start looking at the transfer portal in all sports, by the way, we're talking about baseball now, but you're talking about women's basketball, football, it doesn't matter. Like every sport now has been affected by the transfer portal. And every coach has their own feelings about it. Some are taking it more personal than others. As you know, you can see, obviously, the LSU coach is telling you, hey, man, we're going to be on the winning side of the transfer portal. It giveth and it taketh away. But for us, it giveth more than it taketh away. But for some coaches, they don't feel that way. They feel a little bit, offended. And they feel like that the transfer portal could be the end of them or their program, or could lead to the deterioration and depreciation of their program. Trent Dilfer is the coach at UAB,
yes.
Which I forgot, actually. I'm not going to lie. I forgot all about that.
Yeah, he just took it recently because he was on ESPN and then left ESPN for a UAB job, which is not normally
the route.
Normally if you're leaving ESPN, you're going for a little bit higher of a job.
Yeah.
It's a better pay and all that.
And good for him because this is a point, I guess he's reminding us, hey, Trent Dilfer, hey, I'm over here, guys. I'm at UAB, in case y'all forgot. Well, he had something to say about players being poached via the transfer portal and the tampering rule, which I would say tampering is like speeding. They say speeding is the most violated law on the books in America because everybody does it. Some of y'all driving, listening right now are speeding and violating the law. I just did it. We all do it every day. We break that law. It's the most broken law and violated law on the books. Well, that's tampering in college sports. Most violated law on the books. Everybody is tampering. You could argue if you're not doing it, you're not doing your job. Here's what Trent Dilfer had to say about coaches tampering potentially with his players.
And it's easy for a coach to say, oh, man, you're going to jump right into this nickel spot and you're going to play in national televised games every week. And that's really easy to say. And then kid shows up and he's like, well, wait a second. Why am I the third guy? By the way, come try to get my guys.
Right.
Like, I dare you, Power Fives. I got a pretty big platform that I can step on.
Yeah.
And if I find you in my kids' DMs and if I find you talking to high school coaches about my kids, if you're in my roster, I'm going to call your ass out. I'm going to say it by name to the biggest voices in television today, and it's going to make Game Day, and it's going to make Sports Center, and it's going to make, because by the way, those guys running Sports Center are still my friends.
That's right. I still got their
So go ahead. I dare you to jump into my roster. And I told the American coach the same thing. I said, why don't you guys have the you-know-whats to stand up and say, get out of my roster?
Right.
I said, here's why, because you want their job.
Oh,
You said it. I want this job.
That's right.
I don't want no power. I want this job. I want to live in Birmingham. I want to live downtown. I want to go see my grandson in Nashville. I don't want that other job. So I don't care if you blackball me.
Right.
I want this job. I want the city of Birmingham to say, no, that's our city. That's our coach. Right? And so go ahead. I'm not scared of whoever, the grand poopah of poopahs, to blackball me. Right? Like, get out of my roster. These are my guys. I love these guys. Stay the hell out of it.
Kind of reminds me of a jealous boyfriend. My dad once told me, because I remember having a discussion with him about a girl I was dating, and he was like, because I think I was referring to her as mine or my or something like that. He's like, why are you being so possessive about people you're in a relationship with? You don't own them. You're in a relationship with, you don't own them. I said, I know people say mine and my all the time. He said, just watch programming yourself to say these are mine. They are mine. They belong to me. Because they don't.
Yeah.
You understand that they don't. They can decide to change their mind anytime, whether you think that's wrong or not. They can go do whatever they want. The truth is, threatening other men to not hit on my woman is not the way to keep my woman. Keeping my woman happy is the way to keep her from jumping ship to go be with somebody else. It ain't threatening the people around her that are trying to woo her, because she's beautiful and she should be wooed. All right? And the same thing can be true for the players and recruiting. You don't own the players anymore. It's a free market now. Yeah. They can hit the transfer portal whenever they want to. They can go see what that market value is anywhere. The true test these days, actually, for the culture to try to keep players is how you treat the players. Ultimately, because they have social media now to complain about and have a platform to complain about the way you treat them and their treatment. They have the transfer portal to exercise their flexibility and options. They have NIL that will give them their actual free market value. All these things they did not have before. So these players now, they truly have the players' rights era has begun. And I don't know, the way he spoke about them, like they're mine, like, no, that's yours, Trent Dilfer, like they're not your.
Yeah.
I know what you're saying. I know you want what's best for them, and you think what's best for them is also what's best for you. But the truth is, that's not the way to keep them by threatening the coaches around. And by the way, no coaches are sliding into DMs. It's called plausible deniability. It's third or fourth degrees of separation. It is the high school coach, as Patrick mentioned. It is the best friend. It is the player on your roster who's also thinking about leaving, that's talking to another player on their roster. And by the way, players in any different industry or in any walk of sports that you want to look at, they basically have decided that players cannot tamper.
Yeah.
They're because it's a pre-existing relationship that usually exists between the players, so they can't tamper. So any player can go and slide into any player's DMs on your roster and say, hey, my coach says you're a good player, and you can come here and make $50,000 in NIL.
Not only that, most of these players are meet at camps. They all go to camps now over here. They all know each other. Like, the best players all know each other. So if you're a top prospect, or even if you're trying to be a top prospect, and you're a 3-star in a fight, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, man, it's 3 stars at UAB, and now he worked out with a 4-star that was a high 4-star, and that 4-star and 3-star know each other real well because they roomed together at camp or did whatever else at camp. And he can just call him up and go, hey, man, our O-line needs another guy.
Period.
And, hey, man, you should come here, man. What I'm getting, what are you getting? What are you getting?
Exactly.
You making $500? Man, I made 5 G's last year.
Yep.
Why don't you come here?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's just funny because you see it, and then you just wish that this is where you wish interviews could be better that you hear afterwards.
Yeah.
You go, hey, man, ask him if one of those players wants to go in the draft and he knows he ain't going to draft it out of UAB. Why? Ask him, would you then want him to go do the best thing for himself, for his family?
Exactly.
Or would you want him to do the best thing for you?
Yep.
Would you want him to stay to help your program because you feel in 10 years UAB could be a program that gets players drafted, and you would say, I'd rather build off your back my legacy at UAB, or would you say, no, the right thing is to help him go and find a better program and go, no, I trust that guy, and that's a great, you'd fit in great there.
And,
which what would you do? Because I think by this interview, it seems like you would tell him, if you leave us, you're dead to us, and not, hey, man, I love you. I want what's best for you.
Yeah, and go do what's best for you, and I'll go find the next you.
Yeah,
and with you know what I mean. I'll go find the next one.
And have a thing in your recruiting when we were recruiting new guys and you're in the league. Come back and help us out, and say, man, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them starting me out. Mm-hmm. Because that would be more helpful if he's in the league.
Yeah,
like there's ways you can do it and have a good attitude, and maybe Trent Dilfer is that guy.
Maybe he is, but I'm just saying like that.
But that came across.
It came across as listen, I get it. I'm not saying that he's wrong at all, but I'm telling you that's not the way to keep your program and culture intact in an NIL world. That's not the way to do it. You almost have to accept that, hey, they have freedom, and if they're happy, they'll stay here. If they're not happy, then they'll go elsewhere. Sark actually has that mentality. Remember, he says anybody goes to the transfer portal, I don't want them back. Once you make your decision, go. It's fine. It's good for you, but not good for our program, for you to be, undecided about what you want to do and for us to accept you back. That's bad for our culture.
Yeah.
Do what's best for you. I'm going to do what's best for us.
No, and that's like the Atlanta Braves are notorious for, if you want to go hit free agency, cool. But we ain't signing you once you hit free agency. Freddie Freeman was supposed to be a lifetime Brave. He wanted to see what his market value was. They all didn't offer him another contract.
Yeah.
They said, cool. We offered you a fair value. You wanted to go test the market? Have fun in LA. And it's that mindset when you go, it doesn't always work, but it works more times than not, because you get other players and they go, well, these guys have treated me right, and I get it. I understand now I can't just play the market, but that's a much easier way to play it than you are not allowed to leave. Like, no, go.
Yeah.
The door is right there.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Understand, I don't want unhappy people here.
That's the whole point. I
don't want any of that, but understand that door is a one-way door. For if you walk out, that's fine, and I'm not mad. But also don't walk in and hold me up for money because someone's in your DMs telling you they're going to give you $10,000 if you transfer there, and that's the only reason you're leaving. Because then, fine, go take $10,000.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need somebody who's only here to make that money, like only do that. That's the only reason you're here.
I know, and I love the text report says not one person believes him when he says he didn't want a Power 5 job, which I agree. I think when somebody offers him a better job, he's going to take the better job, which is I think we all wanted these student athletes to have the same options and freedoms as the coaches who were upgrading, and they were finding upward mobility in their profession, being able to move up, make more money, better quality of life, better job, better opportunity, and then the players could not pursue those same opportunities, and that just seemed wrong. And now that is right. A lot of coaches, they're uneasy about this.
It's one of those things. It was a flawed system before, and it's a flawed system now.
Yes.
But certain people are acting like the old system wasn't flawed.
Great point.
They're going, no, but in that old system, I won, so it wasn't flawed.
I didn't have a player making more than my assistant coaches. Yeah, that's the new world.
No, in that old system, I started halfway across, and now we're starting even. But like you're younger, so it's flawed.
That's exactly right. It is. That's exactly what's going on. All right, we come back. We'll get into the flex on the other side, right here on Ball Don't Lie. 104.9 The Horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Logo and Rod Babers here. Austin is a beautiful city. We just got on talking about, some of the not so pretty aspects of Austin, the traffic. But how about getting back to some of the beautiful, unique, aesthetic things that make Austin so appealing? And part of the aesthetic appeal is thanks to our good friends and the skilled craftsmanship of Ironworkers Local Union 482. They've been helping shape Austin since 1935, and you see the labors of their love all over this great city in iconic landmarks you may be driving by right now and don't even know it, like DKR Stadium and the Pennybacker Bridge. And as our city continues to grow and thrive, so does Ironworkers Local Union 482. They don't go to the office, they build it. So if you're looking for an exciting new career and you want to become a member of Ironworkers Local 482, you can become a valued member of this prestigious organization and accept the challenge of becoming the best version of yourself while helping shape Austin's economic development. Right now, they're hiring over 3,000 people for a huge project right here in Central Texas, and you can become a valued member of Ironworkers Local 482 and take pride in the type of teamwork and craftsmanship that helps shape the future of our great city. So maximize your potential and be your best self today. Simply apply at ironworkers482.org. That's ironworkers482.org. Welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. Getting ready to get into the flex here. On the other side, we're getting to some Texas football conversation. Pro Football Focus really high on Texas football. Also, they're expected to have one of the more improved defenses this upcoming season. We'll talk about that coming up in the top of the 4 o'clock hour. FLXATX.com, FLXATX on all your social media platforms. Go check it out. Top of the charts Tuesday. Shout out to my man Patrick. That's when he plays jams to reach the top of the Billboard charts on this day in history. But go to the flex, FLXATX.com. You can go check out the 7-on-7 little homage to the 7-on-7 D1 state champs, the Round Rock Dragons in the flex area. So shout out to them. And also, speaking of, you can go check out the flex replay, the show that had Mason Cochran, the starting quarterback for the Round Rock Dragons on. That was a couple of weeks ago. You can go get the replay of that at FLXATX.com. And I believe coming up tomorrow, you have your last Wednesday night flex. So you don't want to miss that Wednesday night flex. Don't actually know who's going to be on just yet. So we'll give you some more details about that.
And let's say last Wednesday night flex of the year.
Yes.
They will be starting back up on the Friday night flex.
Yes.
For when we get back to football season starting back up.
Yes. My apologies. I didn't mean it was
I don't want to
dead.
scare anybody that flex is dead.
That is true.
It is not.
Yes.
It is alive and well.
That is what I meant. Yes, of the year. So that'll be coming up tomorrow. But you can go to FLXATX.com, FLXATX on all of your social media platforms. All right. We come back. We'll get into some Texas football conversation. Pro Football Focus has a way too early preseason poll that gives Texas some love, but also Texas defense. We'll talk about the defensive side of the ball for the Longhorns and what to expect. And since we didn't get to this topic earlier in the show, we'll actually get to Shohei Ohtani and the Astros and the Rangers. We'll fit that into the 4 o'clock too and talk some baseball and NBA. So we got a lot to get into coming up in the 4 o'clock. You don't want to go anywhere. Right here on Ball Don't Lie, 104.9 The Horn. Welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. It is a top of the charts Tuesday. That's when my man Patrick takes jams. I reached the top of the Billboard charts on this day in history. Chan wants me to know that Rod captained Tennille way before my time. That is true. But I'm an old soul, Chan, which you don't realize. I'm an old soul. All right, grew up in the back of the car, listening to whatever mom and pops loved. That's why I love Motown and love me some James Brown. Grew up watching all the old black and white shows. I've seen every episode of Donna Reed, of Dobie Gillis, the Patty Duke Show, I Love Lucy, Andy Griffith, you name it. I watched all them damn shows growing up. That's all I grew up watching. I've seen all the episodes of those shows.
Andy Griffith? You mean Andy Griffith?
I've seen every episode of Andy Griffith. My theory growing up, I told Craig this theory, and he doesn't like it. It makes him a little uneasy. I said my theory about Andy Griffith going up, because I watched so much of it. Because if you don't know about Andy Griffith, he's a single dad. Man, his wife, allegedly passed away sometime before the show started, and he's raising Opie by himself. He's a sheriff without a gun. He's a sheriff without a gun. I put two and two together. He used his gun to kill his wife in Mount Pilot, buried the gun, and now to kind of, to put an image out there that he's the good guy that doesn't like violence, and now I'm the sheriff without a gun. After I think he used that gun to kill his wife in Mount Pilot. Nobody talks about what happened to his wife. No pictures up in the house. We never see it. They don't even mention her that often in the show. She's mentioned like twice in the whole damn show. They don't even mention. What the hell's going on that? You gonna raise a young boy whose mom died and y'all never mention her? Her face is never up in the house. No pictures of her up. No. Andy Reid was up to some.
You gotta hire an idiot deputy.
Yeah, Andy Reid was up to some shady stuff. And you know what? I'm sure Barney helped him out get rid of the body. So
this rug's heavy.
I'm telling. I was watching too much Dateline and Andy Griffith, I guess, at the same time. But that's what I came up with. Craig hates that theory. Every time I bring it up with Craig, he's like, "That's ridiculous." I'm like, "Disprove it. You can't disprove it. It's a fan theory."
Now I just have an image of Andy Griffith cleaning up the blood while whistling, and it's just disturbing.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. American Psycho before it happened. Yeah. He's whistling. He's whistling the themes of Andy Griffith as he does some very duplicitous stuff. That's what I'm saying. That's all. That's my theory about it. There you go. He was a bit of a womanizer, too, on the show. I mean, he had a few ladies that he was dating at the time. The teacher, Helen, dated her. And a couple other women that he dated. So, he's a bit of a womanizer, but he never talked about his wife. He never talked about her.
No, you can't bring that up.
Well, I would like to know how she died, why she died, and can Opie mourn? Can he grieve? I mean, he's a young kid who lost his mom, and then, y'all never mention her again. He's going to grow up to be a serial killer. Anyway. Sorry, Chan, but you got me on that rant there. Anyway, so we'll get to some NBA news, notes, and nuggets next segment. We got several reports about Dame Lillard. That's a big topic of conversation in the NBA right now, is Dame Lillard. And you will not believe who some NBA insiders are reporting that Dame Lillard wants to team up with. I don't know if I like this. I'm sure you've heard these rumors, Patrick.
I have, and it's weird. I am blown away by how many teams want this person.
It is. No, it's like 4 or 5 teams.
Blown away that he is apparently the piece to a championship. It does not make sense, but we'll talk about it later.
I can't wait. Patrick's annoyed already, but okay, we're going to make some time for that rant. That's coming up. Also, Dennis Rodman calling out Larry Bird. Did y'all hear this? Did you hear Dennis Rodman?
Come on now.
Dennis Rodman, where do we put in terms of how much we believe him? Like, how authentic are his stories and his takes? Do we think that he's just being kind of a showman and exhibitionist, or do we believe like he's?
I think that's his take.
He believes
this. Yes.
This is not him just trying to go viral.
I believe that is his take.
He believes this. Okay.
Yes. I don't know if it was because he listened to somebody dumber than him, or.
But he doesn't like Larry Bird. He said stuff about Larry Bird before.
None of those Pistons like the Celtics.
But
because they could beat him constantly.
But he picks on Larry Bird a lot.
Yeah.
He said some stuff about Larry Bird that I think he actually took back and regretted. And Dennis Rodman don't regret a damn thing he said. But he said some stuff that was so offensive about Larry Bird.
I could imagine Larry Bird with the stories of how much he trash talked. Could have.
Because Larry Bird's trash talk, you're right. That's a good point. I bet this day and age, we would consider that the stuff that he said to be something you could be cancelable.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, that was but it was just trash talk to him. You know what I mean?
We saw that one of the best scenes in The Last Dance is when Michael Jordan and Larry Bird hug after Michael Jordan knocks them out of the playoffs, and they're cussing at each other, and they're just like hugging each other, and they're just still like, "I hate you so much." I hate you. I hate your mama. I hate your kids.
It is too. They got that competitive sickness, which basically makes them like borderline psychopaths. And they're sitting there cussing each other out like, I do love you, but I admire you, but I hate your guts. Yeah, no, but so we'll get into that. Dennis Rodman talking trash about Larry Bird again. And we'll get into some of the NBA reports out there too. Before we talk Texas football here, and there are a couple of Texas football nuggets. We didn't get a chance to get into the baseball discussion because I came a little bit late. I want to talk some actually Major League Baseball, not just College World Series. Let's get into the Rangers. The Rangers lost last night to Detroit 7-2. They got to play the Tigers again tonight. And it was a terrible, embarrassing loss for Rangers fans, only because they lost 7-2 Detroit. And that's no shame in losing. Major League Baseball season is a really long season. But the Detroit Tigers lost their starting pitcher with an injury 15 pitches in. Matthew Boyd got hurt 15 pitches in, had an injury. He left. The reliever, Will Vest, also got hurt a few pitches in. So he was out. And they only have like 3 starting pitchers because they're 2 of their starters, Eduardo Rodriguez and I think it's Matt Manning is his name, if I'm not mistaken. They're injured too. So 2 of the starters were already out. One of the starters that started the game got injured 15 pitches in, and then the reliever went down too, and everybody assumed, oh, man, Rangers are going to boat race him. I think the Rangers thought that too. That was not the case. They lost to Detroit 7-2, and they got the Astros series, go Astros, later this week, and then this is their last homestand, I believe, before the All-Star break. I just think it was a perfect storm of just them believing that once Detroit had the multiple injuries to their pitching staff, that that would be an easy win, but also them being very relaxed before the All-Star break. There's also some of that. And Detroit, honestly, Detroit's a bad team. I mean, they only got 6 wins in June. They've been swept 3 times so far this season. And I just gave you all the injury issues they got, but they came out and they put it on the Rangers. And the Rangers were 0 of 10 with runners in scoring position. That didn't help. They left 9 runners stranded on base. That also didn't help. So the Rangers this month only 12-11. So they're slowing. They're not winning at a feverish pace like they started out the season. So they're slowing down just a little bit. I still think the Rangers are definitely for real.
And we're getting closer to the All-Star break, which is a big break for a long season.
That's why I said they're still distracted.
You get it. Yeah. The DeGrom injury is something that is very distracting where, when you're feeling so good about your season, that's something that can distract. But I think with Bochy being there, I think he's just a really good manager, that you're going to be able to kind of take the All-Star break, take a break, realize that you were in the conversation at the All-Star break and redirect it and point forward. But I was telling Chad earlier, you look at those top 30 teams in the division, it feels like at least one of them will not be fighting in the second half.
Yeah.
Like it's very hard for 3 teams in a division to all play well for an entire season. I know the Astros aren't playing well, but they're playing better than a lot of teams in Major League Baseball, and they're on their ceiling right now or on their floor playing the worst baseball you can basically imagine for them.
I'd agree with that. If you're basically basing it off recent history, you would assume the Astros will figure it out.
Well, and with
just
injuries,
based on recent history,
you figure if Alvarez comes back, they get another pitcher back. They get if Brantley can come back, if Altuve's out right now again, like if you can get some of your players back, all of a sudden that changes. If they make a move at the deadline, which they've been known to do, you have some young pitchers like Hunter Brown that if he starts to even get to that next level, he's been pitching pretty well. But if you pull him up to another step in the second half, there's a lot that can go positively to kind of reset them. But they've just been really hurt.
This is the worst injury luck for the Astros since they started their run, since 2016. They haven't had injury luck this bad to start a season, really ever. And so I think that's something that's, been a bit of a shock to the system for the Astros. And they just haven't, even the guys that have been available haven't played their best baseball just yet. They've been struggling intermittently, different guys. But I'm with you. I think if you're basing it off your confidence level of recent history, you'll assume the Astros will figure it out so they can at least get into the postseason. The Rangers, even though this is, kind of relatively new for the Rangers now at the top of the division, and everybody, kind of looking in the rearview mirror at everybody else, they paid for this. Out of all the teams that are in first place right now, only the Braves have a higher payroll.
Yeah.
than the Rangers in first place. The Rangers I remember Harsh talking about, they put a lot of money into this.
Yeah.
That's why a lot of us are surprised by the Rangers turnaround. The Rangers are not, because they paid good money for it.
They were buyers 2 years in a row.
Yes, exactly. They spent a ton of money for this. So now they're like, all right, finally it's paying off some of the investments we made. And then you look at the Angels, who with arguably two of the top 5 best players in baseball right now.
Generational
talents. And they haven't been able to make any noise in the postseason. One of those 3 teams, I think I'd choose the Astros and the Rangers right now. But, man, I really want to see the Angels in the postseason. And that's weird for me as an Astros fan, because it probably would mean the Astros are going to be on the outside looking in.
And this is the other part you have to watch with Ohtani, though, is we know he's a free agent at the end of this year. Either the Angels have to figure out that they're going to actually put in an offer and try and keep him and go, we need to allocate $600 million that, for how many years we're going to try and keep him, or we really, to help our franchise, need to sell him off at the trade deadline. Even if we're competing, I don't think we're there to win a title, and we can't just lose this guy for nothing. So if we can go raid a team of a bunch of good prospects, knowing we're going to lose him and trade him off, well, that kind of tanks their season. But now they get a bunch of prospects knowing they're not going to offer him a contract, and they don't want to pay him that money. Now, they may want to pay him, so they may say, hopefully this is a season where we can show him that we're for real, and he'll stay, and he'll be an Angel for life. Maybe that's the case.
Yeah.
But if not, it's a real hard sell to chase a playoff in a division where you're not even first place in your division, and not think, hey, man, we could get look at what he's doing. He's carrying a team that has been bad for years. He's doing so much right now. Look at what value we could get for a team that wants him in the second half of the season.
I told you. You know what? That's probably the thing the reason you wouldn't pick the Angels right now, because that would be the responsible thing to do.
If you know you're not going to offer him. If you're going to offer him a contract, then it's fine. I get it. You can hope and pray that he decides to stay.
Yeah, but there's still teams out there that would offer sillier money than you would.
Yeah,
for
Shohei. And technically, you can trade him and then re-sign him. It is not like basketball where you got to keep bird rights and stuff like that.
Yeah, you're right. You can work out something, but
so you could technically say, well, we're going to make him an offer, but let's move off of him right now and get the pieces, and then when we sell it back to him, we'll go like, hey, come on back, and now look at all the pieces we got for you too.
No, that's fair. They got to do something though, and you're right. I wonder when. Now we're at the All-Star break, essentially. We're a week away from the All-Star break. When that conversation is going to get real, because it's about time. Because right now, the value can't get higher
than it is
right now. It literally can't get higher. He is leading the Angels in games played, at bats, hits, batting average, runs batted in, on base percentage, triples, home runs, total bases, stolen bases, slugging percentage, on base plus slugging percentage, wins above replacement. Also, game started, quality starts, wins, innings pitched, ERA, strikeouts, and WAR for pitchers too. And he's leading all of Major League Baseball in home runs, RBIs, OPS, slugging percentage, and opposing batting average, and strikeouts per 9 innings pitched. He's the first player since 1900 to have a share of the Major League Baseball lead in home runs hit and batting average allowed on any given day. Yeah. And you can basically keep repeating that stat almost the rest of the season, because he is right now, the pace that he is on, if he continues on it, he will be doing something that we haven't seen in 120-something years in baseball, at least since they've been keeping track of it.
And I mean, if you have to think, if you're the Yankees, you're the Dodgers, or if the Giants start to turn around, they want to make a pitch. Like if one of these teams really wants to go after him, right?
They will.
And they want to go, we want the head up in free agency too, because if he's already on our team, we've already shown him, then that changes our pitch, because now he's already seen it, and now we can just keep him and re-sign him, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all of this, I mean, I would move some prospects, even though it may not work out, to go, I mean, look, we want to win a title. This is the guy, and we want him for 10 more years. So why not throw away some of our future and really go all in?
I'm with you, man. I guess I can't even imagine what the bidding war is going to be for this guy, because we're just talking about the value on the actual playing field and the value off.
Yeah.
You're talking about international star. So in addition to what he's doing now, unprecedented things, and he's still in his prime. He's going to be the highest paid player in the history of Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
And he's going to win the MVP this year. Unless something crazy happens, knocking on wood. But here's a question I have. Let's assume Shohei keeps up this pace, which is just flabbergasted. I mean, I'm just mind-blowing if he keeps up this pace. But let's say he keeps it up, right? Leads Major League Baseball in home runs and also RBIs, opposing batting average and OPS, all these different things. Where would we put him in the conversation then to be, because if we assume like he's going to be that type of player, at least in his prime, and then once his prime is done, of course, the narrative will shift. But in his prime, if he's going to be this kind of player, I mean, he'd be in the conversation for one of the most influential players in the history of Major League Baseball.
I mean, that's the thing. It depends where he goes.
That's a big, exactly. That's
because
a big part
you
of it
have
too.
to win.
Because you can't, if you're not going to the postseason, the Angels, nobody's talking about him as much because he's not in the postseason.
Yeah, when we say he was the greatest regular season player of all time, that's a conversation.
Yeah, that's a sad conversation.
But like Reggie Jackson is Mr. October, and everyone knows him because he's Mr. October. And you don't say, well, his stats were really good during the season. No, that's Mr. October.
Yeah, exactly.
Who do you want on your team, Mr. October?
Yeah.
And so, that he has to get on a team. It's baseball. You can't do it by yourself. So he has to get on a team that can get him there, and that's why you figure he's not going to stay with the Angels.
Can't.
But unless the Angels make the run, they go, now it's working. We got Rendon. We finally figured out some of our culture issues, and we have Trout, and we have Rendon, and we have, look, we've spent we have the pieces. It just never worked. And we couldn't tell you why, but if it's working now, but I still, they should, with all the pieces they have right now, be handily winning this division.
They should be. Yeah, exactly. We shouldn't even be having this discussion about him not having the opportunity to play in the postseason.
Because they're spending money.
Because they're spending money, and they got two of the best players in the world. But, man, assume, because Patrick's right, because it's just like the Jokic conversation, right? We're talking about Jokic, and I gave you all the records that he had already achieved in the postseason. And our conversation basically boiled down to nobody gives a damn if you don't win a title. Yeah. Now, when you win a title, then we will retrospectively go back and go, man, now look where he is among all the greats. Now that he's got the ring validates everything else. And the same thing with Shohei Ohtani. I'm going to need him to get into the postseason, do some of this freaky, crazy stuff in the postseason where it matters, and then we'll retrospectively go back and go, all right, you know what? Honestly, this guy may have been one of the most impactful players in the history of Major League Baseball. But if he does, we're talking about, people put Babe Ruth, they put basically, you're talking about the most influential players, impactful players in the game. We're talking about affecting on a macro level, not just your great stats and being Hall of Fame. You'd be talking about, Jackie Robinson, Curt Flood, Babe Ruth, and throw in some other players there. I don't know. I'm not a baseball aficionado, but just throwing in some of those great names. If Shohei Ohtani continues on this pace, he would go into that conversation just because he will inspire a new generation of baseball fans who never looked at the game in that way.
No, I mean, the two-way player is going to be a thing that so many coaches are going to have to talk people off the ledge of.
Exactly.
Because they're like, dude, you just fit, physically, most people are not built in the way to do it. You'll shorten your career by 10 years. You'll blow your arm out. You'll need time. You just won't be able to do both. He is a genetic freak and just everything about him. But the way I put it is Chris Paul, if you look at him, his playoff stats are pretty good because he's been in the playoffs a bunch. What is his legacy? That he's a choke artist in the playoffs. And that is one of the greatest point guards to ever play the game of basketball. And his legacy, because he hasn't won championships, is that he's a choke artist in the playoffs. So for Ohtani, all this is great, but if he doesn't get on a team and win, then it's going to be, the legacy will be what could have been.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And everything else will get forgotten.
Yep, he got to get and I'm saying he's got to get a title, win a World Series, but we got to see him showcase in the postseason.
Yeah, and I mean,
this might be the year, but I hope it's not the year because it might be at the detriment of the Astros. Looks like. Because they're half a game separates the Astros and the Angels right now in the division.
I think we're both about 5 games back from the Rangers.
A lot will be settled when the Astros play the Rangers later on this week.
Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah, that's gonna be big.
Then you get the All-Star weekend, and we start to see these teams. We start to hear more rumors of who's buyers and who's sellers. And from all reports, there's a lot more buyers this year than sellers. So it may not be the craziest trade deadline you've ever seen in MLB.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that our division is going to be one to watch because there is 3 teams that are right there, and there is so much money and everything's committed. And the Rangers buyers for 2 years, so why not go all in if you're already all in? And the Astros are trying to defend a title, and they're trying to still make their, to continue this dynasty.
Yep.
So they need to be able to try and put together pieces if guys aren't coming back. If Brantley's not coming back, if McCullers isn't coming back, you have to be able to find other pieces in there. Apparently, Dusty Baker doesn't like Chaz McCormick. So
this is the thing. Oh yeah, I heard this. I think people were paraphrasing it. Basically, he's like, I have to use him. I don't want to use him, kind of thing.
That he's not playing, and a bunch of people think that he's a better player than he's getting respect for right now. But that could be a guy that gets moved just because. Hey, if our manager doesn't like him, put him in a trade package, get some other piece back for him. So we'll see. And then the Angels are. Do you move off Ohtani, or do you go all in and try and keep Ohtani and Trout? And you have Rendon, you have some other pieces that are already there. You've paid for guys before. You go, okay, we think we figured out the managing now. We think we figured out the culture problems, and let's run full force forward what we tried to do 5 years ago and just failed at.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, too. And, yeah, it's going to be interesting with the second half of the season. This might be one of the more intriguing divisions, period, for the second half of the season. I don't know if there is one.
And, Seattle's still not a bad team. The only team that is garbage is Oakland.
And that's honestly, that's intentional.
Yes, they are intentionally garbage.
They are trying their best to be garbage. Yeah. No, it's a good point. Okay, real quick, because next segment, we're going to talk NBA. I know I'd said we get some Longhorn football conversation, so we can table that into Rod's rant of the day, and I'll talk some Longhorn football. We'll talk about the Longhorn football defense specifically, and I'll tell you who's getting a lot of love this offseason and getting really high expectations, I should say, for next season. But real quick, since we're talking about Texas football, Pro Football Focus has their way too early preseason rankings based on their ELO algorithm. Don't ask me what the ELO is because I'm not that into it. But it's just a cumulative algorithm, different factors they throw in there. They have Texas fifth best team in the country behind Georgia, Bama, Ohio State, and Michigan. I know. Ahead of Clemson, Penn State, LSU at 8, Tennessee at 9, and USC at 10. Notre Dame's at 11. They got Oklahoma at the next Big 12 team at 13. They're right below Oregon at 12 and ahead of Florida State. At 14, they got TCU at 16, sandwiched in between Utah and K-State. I know. Trust me. The hype train is full steam ahead, and it is no brakes on this hype train for Texas. And I'm happy. It should be this optimistic. All right, the mood should be this optimistic for Texas football because there aren't a lot of excuses. Right? What's the excuse if they lose games next season?
Yeah.
Right? It ain't talent. Remember the first season was like, they ain't got no talent. Talent deficiency. No talent. It's like, okay, well, no talent. They've been recruiting like gangbusters, but I guess no talent. Too many transfers, even though everybody deals with transfers. So too many transfers, no talent. I get it. First season, 5-7. They got talent. All of a sudden, took them 1 year to get it all back. In the second season, got tons of talent. And the issue became, apparently now is, they knew the plays. Apparently, everybody knew the plays. Do all the play, do all the signs. They were still in the signs, in the plays. That's why you lost all those games, too, because they were still in the signs, still in the plays. Or you can go to, they had a quarterback injury, whatever. Okay? Throw it out there. Those excuses shouldn't exist next season. Even if a quarterback does end up getting hurt or having some issues, you got one of the best quarterback rooms in the country. Some people are saying top 3 best quarterback rooms in the country. That means there's depth there. So one guy goes down, shouldn't decimate the season. Talent, people are saying right now Texas has one of the most talented teams in the country. Top 5 wide receiver room, quarterback room, O-line, tight end room, all those different things. I mean, only running back is probably the only room that's outside the top 15 or top 10. Right?
And that talent-wise,
it's unproven. It's talent-wise.
But talent-wise, recruiting-wise,
exactly, it's good.
It is.
Yeah, exactly. It's unproven. It ain't done it on the field just yet, but you're right. Talent-wise, Tashard Choice is killing it. So I'm not saying it's a good point. I'm not saying he doesn't have talent. And the defense, I'll get into that, is expected to also pick up where they left off last season, which was a top 30 defense in the country, somewhere around there. So you're just out of excuses. It's the all gas, no excuses tour. The excuses next season is going to be about the coaching and about the schematic advantage or lack thereof. That's what it's going to come down to. Or quarterback development. Quinn Ewers is not on track, doesn't look great, or he's not progressing the way we thought. But all of it will come back to the coaches.
Yeah.
Pretty much. That's why this year will be a judgment on the coaches. because I don't think talent's an issue. Give it up for Sark. I don't think talent development's an issue. I think he's done a really good job of developing the talent they have on the 40 acres last season. Culture, Texas has a really good culture right now. Guys want to be here. They want, even in the transfer portal NIL era, guys want to be at Texas. They're having fun. The Malik, keeping Malik Murphy is a big, I think, example of, hey, a guy could have started somewhere and probably made, I don't know, 6 figures at the university.
That dude could be starting at Alabama.
Yes.
Let's put it this way. When we say starting somewhere, we mean he could be playing on a team with a shot for a national championship next year.
I believe
he could be starting quarterback.
Yep, because they don't know who that quarterback's going to be.
Yes.
And he decided, I want to be at Texas.
Yeah, so that's when we say starting somewhere, it is not starting at Nebraska.
Yeah.
It is starting at a major
Power 5,
yes.
You're one of the best programs in the country.
Yes.
He could go start for those teams. And he chose to stay here. So a lot of the things that we would throw out there as excuses to why this team, our program is underachieving, will no longer be relevant or applicable next season. And I'm excited about that. The only excuse you can have pretty much is going to be the coaches didn't get it done. And and to me, as I said, I think Sark has got to take his game to the next level. If he does that, this team will compete for a Big 12 title. They should win a Big 12 title. They'll definitely compete for one. And that's the goal. All right, so everybody high on Texas. We're still drinking that Kool-Aid until we see a reason not to. Just keep drinking until there's a reason not to drink the Kool-Aid. Hopefully it doesn't come early in the season like it did last season. Because Bama, Longhorn fans were still drinking the Kool-Aid at Bama. They just stopped sipping it because of the Quentin Ewers injury. That had a drastic effect on Longhorn fans.
We were still drinking the Kool-Aid because of how we played at Bama.
Exactly. But then the Tech game happens.
Yes, the Tech game kind of killed it.
And that's when you slapped in the face.
Because I remember talking to people. Down. We were doing remotes before the Alabama game and talking to people, and people were like, man, I bet 62-5.
No, you're right. No, I believe the point spread was 21-23. It was something. It was a high. They had Bama beating Texas by 3 touchdowns at home.
Even with people drinking a little bit of Kool-Aid last year going into that Bama game, no one was predicting it to be within a score.
No.
Let's put it that way. Most people are predicting it to be, okay, your 4th strings getting into this game.
Pretty much.
And so, even with the injuries, you went, well, but maybe.
I know.
If he comes back sooner. And then, of course, you always get every college coach will tell you, he broke his neck, both legs, and his back. We're hoping to have him back in 2 weeks.
No, you're right. People were optimistic. Honestly, and I teased Longhorn fans about this. Y'all were very Aggie-like after that Bama game. Y'all must admit. There was a lot of moral victories. It was like, oh, man, we played them to the wire. And it was like, you lost. We played really hard, and, man, Bama respects us. And I was like, you lost. I was the only one you lost the game. That's how you know we're still transitioning into being kind of back to being elite again in our expectations and standard. Don't let your expectations affect the standard. That's what I said after that game.
Yes.
Your expectations are for Texas football are what they are. And they should be. Make sure they're realistic, considering what we've seen the last decade. But the standard of Texas football is something different. All right? The standard is a standard that was set long ago. DKR set the standard, and the standard from then as a blue blood is what the standard is. So, yes, your 9-win seasons or your 8-win seasons are great, but that's not the standard. So is it a good season? Okay, yeah, you had a good season, but did you meet the standard? No. The standard is the standard. And Longhorn fans were very happy, Aggie-like, after that moral victory versus Bama. Man, we were really close. Yeah, but we can't be celebrating close now, can we? When I first came to Texas, there was a term for guys, and I didn't know. My nickname in high school was Kool-Aid because I smiled all the time and smiled everything off. Called me Kool-Aid Smile. And I came to Texas, and the Kool-Aid term the nickname had a different meaning. Kool-Aiding as a verb meant hanging out with ladies and not closing the deal. You were Kool-Aiding the whole time. You know what I mean? You never closed the deal. You weren't about your business. All right, ABC, always be closing. So I was like, nah, I don't want to be called the Kool-Aid nickname anymore. So I distanced myself from the Kool-Aid nickname because of what it meant on the 40 acres. Save there with Texas. You can't be Kool-Aiding. Dubs, baby. You get the dub or you don't. You close the deal or you don't. You can't be Kool-Aiding. You're Texas. You can't celebrate a L with a moral victory. We don't celebrate the M in moral victory. We celebrate the dub. So flip the M. That's what we want. Okay? I know you felt good after that battle. Oh, man. No, we don't do that. So there you go. They didn't like that take. I'm just telling you the truth. The standard is the standard. Don't let your expectations affect the standard. All right, we come back. We will get into NBA news, notes, and nuggets. We will hear from Chris Haynes about a report about Dame Lillard, also about the Mavs potentially pursuing a player in the draft world. We'll get into that as well. Also, we'll hear from Dennis Rodman calling out Larry Bird. All of that and more right here on Ball Don't Lie on 104.9 The Horn. All right, welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. You can hit us up on the Specs text line, 512-337-3776. That's the number to the Specs text line. You also can hit us up via Twitter. Matt Harge is on vacation, well-deserved, but you can hit us up. My man Patrick is at It's Patrick Davis in the Twitterverse. I'm at Rod Babers in the Twitterverse, and you can hit us up there as well. Got some NBA discussion to get to on the top of the charts Tuesday when Patrick plays the Jams that reached the top of the Billboard charts on this day in history. All right, so a lot of NBA news to get to. We'll save the Dennis Rodman conversation for the end of the segment here. But a couple of cuts from Chris Haynes, who is an NBA insider, has been really on top of the Dame Lillard. And he claims that him and Dame Lillard are close, like they're good friends.
Yeah, no, that's one of the reasons he's one of those guys that has advanced a long way because he is friends with a lot of players.
Like the Windhorse LeBron thing. I don't know if they were friends.
But Chris Haynes knows his good relationships with a lot of players, and so he gets more inside news. So
he knows.
That's why when you hear some interviews with him and you're like, how is this guy like? He's not bad, but he's not TNT good.
But he's
he's very inside, and players want to talk to him. So you go, that's part of the struggle. I get it.
Okay, so he's got the insight. Well, that's perfect then, because he actually went on the record about Dame Lillard, and he had an interesting little nugget about Dame Lillard possibly either being traded to another team or trying to convince the Portland Trailblazers to rebuild his way. Not rebuild, but to build around him in the manner in which he prefers. Here is Chris Haynes talking about the Dame Lillard updates.
Dame that I can say, you guys know how close I am with Dame. One thing I can say about him, like, he doesn't want to be on a team that is just stacked. He doesn't want to. He doesn't want to have a team where it's just 3 all-stars or 3 superstars, and then they go and battle that way. No, he just wants a team that has a shot. And if you look at the teams that he's been on all throughout his career, he's never really had a shot. And now Joe Cronin, I believe Joe Cronin just finished his second year as general manager. So this is a different regime, but they're kind of selling the same or going over the same talking points. And so Dame is trying to give the organization time to come up with something. That's all Dame is asking for, come up with something. He doesn't want to go younger. He wants to get older. He wants to get older with proven veteran players. He wants to win now.
All right, so he is open to staying there based on the report from Chris Haynes. And how about this? This is from Sam Amick. He's reporting that Damian Lillard actually prefers them re-signing Jeremy Grant and signing Draymond Green, if possible.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. This is why players do not make good GMs.
You're not on board with this?
No, I just don't think that. Does that really get you any closer? Are you better than a 6 seed with that team?
Maybe better than a 6 seed, but I don't think it makes you a championship contender.
The only reason you are better is if Scoot Henderson plays 30 minutes a game and puts up big numbers. That's the only reason. Jeremy Grant's a good player, but he's already there. And I know he's had injuries, but he has already been there. You're not getting a new guy.
Yeah. So
you're just keeping Jeremy Grant because he likes playing with Jeremy Grant. Draymond Green gets you maybe 3 wins in the regular season, maybe 5 if you're really lucky.
Yeah.
And then in the playoffs, he helps you out a little bit. Now, the problem is Draymond Green doesn't get along with young players. And you know who you're going to need to play really well? Young players.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to have this whole let's get a bunch of old guys together, have fun. There's not a bunch of guys out there. The CBA is not set up in a way to do that as much anymore. And people figure that whole super team building thing kind of out. They don't like to have players sign for minimum, like real good veterans sign for minimum anymore. It just doesn't work as well that way. And also, that's a really hard thing to build when you're a point guard. Because point guard is the easiest position to find in a basketball team. Because it's the shortest player. And there's just more short people than there are tall people in the world. So there's more better basketball players that are shorter. So if you got to go find, hey, man, we have to find, now our 2 best players are Dame Lillard and Scoot Henderson. They are 6'3" each. So now we have to go find our next shortest guy has to be 6'7". And we have to find 3 guys that are 6'7", 6'9", and 7 foot to fill out our roster. We have to find good guys for no money to do it.
Mm-hmm.
it becomes a problem when you're trying to put the other teams. I get it. If you get Draymond for the right price, but you're going to have to pay Draymond roughly $35 million a year to do this.
Yeah, he's not taking a huge pay cut.
To go to Portland? No.
No way.
Because if he's taking a pay cut, he's staying in Golden State, where he has lived and his family is and all his friends are and where they have a better chance to win. Because is Damian Lillard better than Steph Curry?
No, well, no, not right now.
So who are you going to – why were you going to the other guy then?
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And by the way, Draymond Green – apparently is being coveted. He and Rich Paul's his agent.
Yeah.
And Brian Windhorst reports that basically the Kings and the Pistons are also interested, and that prior to Memphis getting Marcus Smart in that trade, that Memphis were one of the top teams who wanted these services of one Draymond Green. So there are multiple teams looking at him as potentially a piece that could put them over the top.
It's that they all trying to get that.
The Kings.
Well, they want that guy who gives them toughness. And I get it. I get that seems great until you realize what the toughness comes with. And in today's league, do you think that the rest of the players are going to respond to that, or they're going to fight back and it's not going to work? And that's really the problem is all these guys go, oh, no, I respect Draymond, so these guys will respect Draymond. You go, I don't think – like you saw what happened with Jordan Poole. Jordan Poole didn't respect Draymond one bit.
Yeah, he got punched in the face because of it.
He did, but you can't punch. I mean, De'Aaron Fox respects him.
Yeah.
But, I mean, he stepped on Sabonis' chest, and then you're going to go sign him?
No, you're right. But I know Mike Brown, I guess, knows him very well.
We know that they just got Chris Paul, who Draymond Green said F Chris Paul. They chanted F Chris Paul after they beat him in the Rockets in the series. Like, I get it. You can be a professional and get over a lot of this stuff. I don't know if you're building a team – we need to get toughness, and you don't think, hey, well, let's try and scout guys and go find some guys that, have that. Like Denver brought in Jeff Green, who's a much more affordable option, a great mentor, someone to bring, like you can bring in that guy. It doesn't have to be a $35 million guy who can't score offensively, and defense is already dying off and is going to continue to get worse year to year because he's undersized and his athleticism is going to keep going downhill. So you're going to pay him, and you're maybe get 2 years out of him before the contract is one of the worst contracts in the league. And he's going to be a thorn in your side, and anytime you make any move he doesn't like, he's going to go vent it into his podcast to everybody here.
Yeah. You know what you're getting with Draymond, though.
But I don't think they do. Because I think they think the players, they think like Kyrie Irving and like LeBron, and they go, that's my boy, so go bring him in. And you go, but you're not the only one here.
Yeah, the management, I think, knows what they're getting with Draymond. You have to.
But when you have a party and you invite over and someone's like, oh, my friend's coming. And you're like, are they cool? And they're like, yeah, man, they're cool, man. They're cool. And they show up and they're like, hey, man, change the music.
Yeah.
Hey, man, this music's whack.
And they're an a-hole.
Change the music. Yeah. And then they're like, what? Y'all don't got no food? And this girl starts going through your cabinets and stuff. You're like, I thought you said he was cool. He's like, nah, man, he's funny. He's like, he ain't said one funny thing. That's what happens. And you can have that when you bring Draymond in, that you think, oh, man, no, this guy's really good. But your team chemistry of everyone else, and I get you, the reason why Sacramento, the reason why Memphis, the reason why Portland want him is because they want to change that mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's hard for Dame Lillard to go to these guys and go, you're not working hard enough. Like, you're not putting it in. You're not fighting on the ground for every ball. You need to want this as much as I do. But I don't know if bringing Draymond is for $35 million. If he took $12 million, then he is definitely worth it.
He's never going to take that.
Because you have to have an out. He wants a 4-year, $160 million, $150 million, 4 years. Like, that's a lot of money to put into somebody who probably doesn't have that left in the tank.
No, I get this. It's a good point. I agree with you, but man, there's no doubt there's a market for him. For some reason, there's a lot of people,
and
a lot of teams that think he could be the guy.
I think Rich Paul is really good at controlling narratives because Rich Paul is on every single analyst's phone, and he's telling people all these people are calling for us. So I think Rich Paul is also really good at playing that game. If you've ever noticed, every Rich Paul client is one of the most sought-after clients in sports. So I think he's really good at playing that game as well. I mean, I get Sacramento cleared a lot of space, but if I'm Sacramento, I want Brook Lopez.
Yeah.
Because I feel Brook Lopez can clear the floor for De'Aaron Fox a lot better, and I think he can do a lot of things Draymond does. Now, he's not as much of a runner, but I don't think Draymond is going to be that for 2 years. Like, I think there's just more. I think there's other guys, and when that question is who are they clearing cap space for, it always seems to go back to Draymond now, and it just doesn't make sense in my head if the contract is over 2 years. And I think he wants a longer contract.
I agree with that. One other cut, want to play before we get to the break. Chris Haynes also had a nugget about the Mavs and the Mavs possibly having interest in this player. A little surprised at him talking about the Mavs reaching out to the Suns about DeAndre Ayton.
Not too long ago, the Dallas Mavericks made a play for DeAndre Ayton. They made a real serious play for DeAndre Ayton, and it was not approved. It was not approved. It's something that the Phoenix Suns didn't feel like it was an adequate enough package to make that deal. So that was pretty recent. And now I'm hearing that they're keeping Ayton. So again, take from that as you will. Can the Dallas Mavericks or any other team like the Indiana Pacers or Toronto Raptors, could they swoop in and try to do something differently or try to improve those packages? They possibly could, but as of right now, the plan is to keep Ayton. And there were talks as recently, the last few days, even before my report, the Dallas Mavericks and Phoenix Suns, they were in contact on a potential trade that did not get approved by the Phoenix Suns. So that's that.
Don't know if the Mavs would still, obviously they got two center options. They got some, at least some bodies there at the center position. They got a prospect of Derek Lively for the future. So I'm sure the DeAndre Ayton stuff is dead. But that was interesting that at one point they were reaching out to Ayton. If that had worked out, would that have been good for the Mavs?
I think that was, if the trade they had offered, it probably would have been. Okay. Because the fact it was turned down and then what they ended up doing.
They were going to win the trade.
I think they were offering probably Tim Hardaway Jr., and probably not even giving up some other good young talent like Josh Bell and stuff like that. And maybe 10, but trying to give a future first. Like basically trying to give them scraps and go, you can get off that. We'll take your contract.
Yeah.
They were basically doing it as a salary dump move and then they were going to dump Bertans back onto them too, because you got to make salaries match.
That would have been brilliant too.
So they were going to ditch some salary on them, do everything, and then go, we'll take your salary.
Let me do you a favor, man.
Let me do you a favor and take that bad contract.
Help me help you.
But seeing what they got for Chris Paul and ditching that contract, I don't know. Like in the Bradley Beal, what they had to give up to get Bradley Beal, and I think that Phoenix was not necessarily in a straight, we want to dump a player mode, and Dallas was like, hey, why don't you just dump us? He signed that's a terrible contract. We'll take it though. Yeah,
you're right, because they're mad. Now the new owner is not thinking things through to that extent. He's just going all in.
Yeah, and so if they wanted to, and I think that was the new owner probably, and all reports are that basically everyone within the franchise is not thrilled with DeAndre Ayton's attitude. They haven't been for 2 years.
Yeah.
They feel like he needs to step up, and he feels that they need to give him that. They keep saying that you're the fourth or fifth best player, and he's saying, well, treat me like a star, and I'll act like a star, and they're saying, act like a star, and we'll treat you like a star.
That's not how it works, yeah.
And so it is that catch of, at some point you got to meet your middle ground. I don't think firing Monty Williams is probably the right answer, but we'll
easier
see.
Than getting rid of your superstars. And he needs a change of scenery. He's a prime candidate for a change of scenery guy. All right, we'll come back. We'll get into a little off the record on the side. Want to play that Rodman sound, so we can do it on the other side. Right here on Ball Don't Lie, 104.9 The Horn. Welcome back to another edition of Off the Record here on Ball Don't Lie. This is something that Patrick and I were talking about in the break because Patrick brought it up. And I thought, oh, man, this would be great off-the-record material. Well, apparently the Virgin Galactic is set to have their first commercial space tourism flight. That's right, commercialized space travel is official. You're talking about people paying money, straight cash, homie, so they can go into space. They're going to start their flights this month. Apparently, shares in the company have spiked more than 40% as a result. The company on Thursday said the flight is targeting a launch window that opens today through the 30th. And apparently, if the first one goes right, if there's no issues, they're going to make this a frequent thing. They're going to have another launch in August if the one in June in the next couple of days ends up working out. They're going to plan a second one. And they're basically going to plan monthly commercial flights to space if you got the dough. Richard Branson, the Virgin billionaire, completed his final test space flight in May. And it looks like, Patrick, that this is all go. They said right now they have a backlog of 800 passengers that are on a waiting list to pay about $250,000 to $500,000, depending on what the price tag is. I think it fluctuates if you're number 800, it's less than if you're number one. Yeah, I think they said the one. Actually, I think it's increasing based on what I read.
Oh wait, so it's because it's getting safer.
I don't know why it's increasing. That's a good question because I read an article. That article I just read was from like a week and a half ago, and there's a more recent article that is saying that the price was cheaper for the first one. They said if you got around $450,000 burning a hole in your bank account and a fierce desire to go into space, this could be your opportunity. They said last year, Virgin Galactic founder Sir Richard Branson said they were going to make state-of-the-art space travel available to everybody. And while prices are higher now, the first batch of tickets sold for $200,000. So it was cheaper initially. Now it's going up because it's getting more popular. Why the hell else? Why would I make it cheaper when more y'all want to go?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, supply and demand.
Exactly.
Supply and demand. That's the basic principles of capitalism.
You got to be a multi-millionaire to do it.
If I know things happen in rules of threes. And there was a submarine.
Yeah, what's the other issue? What's the other incident?
In Colorado, I believe a billionaire died racing a race car around the track. Drove into the wall and died yesterday or the day before.
Are you serious?
Yes. So we are at 2 events of billionaires. I'm saying I'm going to wait a week. I'm going to try and wait out another billionaire.
You're not a billionaire, though.
I know. I'm just saying if I was. Like, I don't have a billionaire mindset.
Okay, you would observe it if you were a billionaire.
Yeah, I'd be like, hey, you know what? Take my spot.
So maybe
I'll catch the next bus.
Well, if you're a multimillionaire, you're good? Is this a billionaire thing?
Look, people don't hate multimillionaires. I hate billionaires.
You might know a multimillionaire. You don't know any billionaires.
You only takes 2. 2 million is a multimillionaire.
Yeah, right.
You know a multimillionaire ain't invited to dinner at a billionaire's house. They ain't even.
That is true. You know somebody who used to be a multimillionaire. Now they're just like maybe a millionaire.
Yeah,
they're like dropped off.
What do you own?
Inflation.
1 house? 2 cars. I have a house for my cars.
That's what Chris Rock always said. Like, hey man, if Bill Gates had Oprah money, he'd try to kill himself. And that's basically what you're saying. Like, no, that wealth. That's just a different level of wealth. But yeah, if I had to go to space if I had the choice to go out of space. Or go underneath the deep sea or something, I guess I would choose going out of space, but I'm just not into organized, life-risking activities for recreational purposes. But like I said, you know your life is good when your life is so good, you have to risk it because you're bored. That's how you know you got a good life.
Yeah.
That's a really good life.
I'll tell you. Yeah, you know where I'd go? Vacation for the rest of my life. I don't go anywhere fancy.
I'm going to buy one of those islands or something like that. There you go. Now,
I'll just kind of hang out. Cool.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you.
I'm gonna wait, have like 6 kids, and then die, and then just be like, oh, I'm giving all the money to charity.
You want to die in a boring way.
Yeah.
You just like old age. How'd he die? He was old. Oh, he's great. I'd love to die that way. It's fantastic.
He went chest deep in the ocean.
Yeah,
it was over.
Yeah, exactly. He died in a submersible that imploded because of like what? No, I don't want to die that way. All right, we'll come back. We'll get into some NFL news, notes, and nuggets. I have a question. And we'll get into this on the other side. We'll talk about it when we talk about NFL, and it sparked a rabbit hole session for me. So we'll do that on the other side, right here on Ball Don't Lie, 104 down the horn. All right, welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. Top of the charts Tuesday. That's when Patrick, the Idealionaire, plays jams that reached the top of the Billboard charts on this day in history. Oh, man. This was a wild one. I really didn't even recognize it.
Yeah, some old Duran Duran.
I think it's pretty obvious I'm not a Duran Duran fan.
You're not a fan of Duran Duran?
No, I'm not Duran Duran
I believe
fan.
I think they were just here in town and went swimming in Barton Creek.
Oh,
Barton Springs, sorry.
Oh, that was one of their bits.
I think they posted a Instagram that they went down and.
Oh, nice. Okay, that's cool. Was some naked ladies down there or something too?
Do
naked people still frequent Barton Springs?
I don't know.
Wasn't a topless thing at one time? You'd see like topless women down there at one point?
I feel like you have different reasons to go to Barton Springs than
I don't go to Barton Springs at all. This is something I've been told. These are old wives' tale. Is it old wives' tale or old wives' tale? Which one is it?
Old wives?
Is it old wives or old wives?
Old wives, I believe.
Old wives. Why is it an old wives' tale?
Because they rumor and gossip.
Old wives do?
Yeah.
All right. Thought it was like an old wives' tale.
No, because they're all lies.
Why? Because I would think wise because they're older. They tell wise tales. I guess it's about the wives.
All right, Tex, you tell us who's right. I'm not sure.
No. I think you're right. I think it's old wives. It's more like the buck and butt naked terms. And I believe buck, CK, is the proper term. And we turned it into butt because our minds are in the gutter. That's basically how it works. So, anyway, there you go. So, my man Patrick always hooking it up on a top of the charts Tuesday. We appreciate all of his efforts. We're going to talk some NFL here. Next segment, I'll jump back into some discussion about Texas football. The defense actually is getting a lot of love in one of the articles from CBS Sports. And actually, Pro Football Focus also shows some love to the Texas secondary. So, we'll get into that coming up in Raj Round the Day and talk a little Texas football. Someone here says the Springs is very much frequented by topless ladies. There you go. Some topless ladies. I'm not reading that text. Someone says topless is still the same at Barton Springs. All right, there you go. I've never seen a topless person at Barton Springs. I've just heard about it. Full disclosure. I wouldn't know anything about it.
I'm not scouting it out.
It's been my experience that I don't know, not like really hot, attractive people don't just walk around topless.
It's been my experience. You're not supposed to stare.
Well, I don't stare, but I can see it.
I would stare.
What do you stare? I can see it. Trust me, I am really good now at being able to observe all the attractive folks in the room and not necessarily have to stare at them. It's pretty easy now. Like I'm like Terminator walking in. I can spot all the hot women in a room within 10 seconds of being in the room. And I give you full evaluations, what they're wearing, cleavage amount, all that stuff. And I really don't have to stare at all. I just got like boom. I don't have a photographic memory about a lot of stuff, but I can walk to the room and tell you the hottie's got the white dress on she's got the bangs.
I feel like mine is I can just tell you who's going to be trouble. Like I can walk in and be like, that person's going to be trouble. That person's going to be. But if you were like, you're like, hey man, check out that girl. I'll be the idiot who sits there and goes, where? Just pointing across the room, put your arm down. No.
Yeah, you gotta be able to do it discreetly. I got a wife now, so that's part of your training as a married man. You got to learn to do that. Can't be caught staring. It's the number one violation. Your woman knows that there are hot, attractive people in that room, and she knows you know, because she knows your taste. She knows what you like, and she knows you might be looking at that big booty brunette over there. So she walks in the room. She already knows. The game is now that I can spot it without staring and without disrespecting my wife. She already knows I can see it.
Yeah, I can't stare for other reasons.
Yeah.
Considering nobody wants this face from across the bar slowly eating queso while I stare at you.
Yeah, don't be doing that. That's kind of creepy. But, yeah, I mean, my wife is so cool. I'll wait on her to, at times, if like some ridiculously, let's say some woman, she's got, I don't know, like really short shorts on. She's got like cleavage like bursting out of her shirt. I can count on my lady probably within the first 10 minutes saying something to address it. That way I can just look and not feel guilt. She'll be like, did you see that woman wearing those shorts? I'll be like, yes, I did. I saw those, babe, and I think they were inappropriate for this environment here.
You don't pull out the. Did you see that woman, baby? I only see you. You are the only thing in my life.
I've given that up. That's not realistic. That's like saying people that say I don't see race. Okay, well you obviously see that I'm a different race than somebody else. Don't say that. Just say, hey, I see that you're another race and I appreciate it and it's all good because it doesn't matter to me because all races and ethnicities and cultures are beautiful in their own way. Okay, just say that. Don't tell me you don't see race. I like say, oh baby, I didn't see that big booty brunette because you're the only booty that matters to me. No, she knows I saw it. She knows, and I appreciated it. You know what I mean? Didn't stare, didn't linger.
We can go over the pictures later, honey.
Texture says sunglasses made so you can stare. I know, but then my wife knows that I'm not a sunglass inside guy.
You ever wear sunglasses and you think they're less see-through than they are?
That they can see you staring
and then you see someone look back at you and you're like, oh, they can tell.
Oh, they can tell I'm looking right at them. Damn it. There you go. Someone said
I shouldn't have bought my comic book X-ray vision glasses with me.
Someone said I took the kids to Schlitterbahn last weekend using a very rich visual assortment, but not this time. Obviously, all the really hot milfs stayed home for Father's Day, took care of their daddies. There you go. Hey, ain't nothing wrong with you, getting a look there. But like I said, I wonder if at, Barton Springs, if the right kind of people are showing their nudity. Like the right,
I think if they are,
good for you. If you're confident.
They're also the type of person that you may want to stay at least 30 feet away from. Because they are going to have some harsh opinions about something. Like if you're that confident in life to be like,
I agree.
If you're like, I'm that hot and I can take, you have opinions about things and you are going to tell people.
That's very true. And you're not changing your mind about them.
No.
I agree with that because I'm not that confident. I don't walk around shirtless. No. I haven't done it in years. Some decent dad bod over here, but no, not that confident. Not at all. Okay. Somebody who should, speaking of, here's the question I want to throw out there. They sent me rabbit holing. Because it actually kind of reminded me of there's a I believe there's a phenomenon that's called, make sure I get it right. Is it the Mandela phenomenon? Have you heard of this?
The Mandela effect, yes.
The Mandela effect, right? Where basically like we just have this collective misremembering, like we kind of misremember things collectively as a society and as a large group, even though the facts are very decidedly different than what we remember. We remember what we want to remember.
Yes, like what's that? The Sinbad Genie movie.
Yes.
Berenstain Bears or Berenstain Bears, like those.
There's a bunch of these little things out there. Yeah, just for an example, because he just brought up a couple of examples. They call it the Mandela effect is because Mandela died in 2013, but many people remembered him dying in the 80s for some reason.
Yes, they remembered him, dying in prison.
Yes, people assumed it was like they remembered. It's like, actually, no, he died in 2013. So that's why they call it the Mandela effect. So then there are all these different examples of it in pop culture. Like, remember the Looney Tunes symbol, like for the Looney Tunes cartoons? Looney Tunes actually was spelled Tunes. Most people would think it was spelled tunes, like cartoons.
Yeah.
But it was actually spelled tunes, like the tunes, because the musical tunes. You brought up the Bernstein Bears, which is another weird one because they spelled their last name with an A. Oh, sorry, the Bernstein Bears, first name, Bernstein Bears, they were spelled with an A.
Yeah.
Instead of an E.
Stain instead
People
of
think of Steen. Yeah, everybody thinks Steen. That's another one of them, too. There are tons of these. Like, people talk about Sex in the City when it was actually Sex and the City.
Yeah.
But everybody went to call it Sex in the City. So there are tons of these. They call it the Mandela effect for different reasons. I think there are some of these in sports, too. And one of them is honestly about Bo Jackson. Like some athletes have such a mystique about them, such an aura about them. They become legends. They become more lore and legend than actual people and players. And Bo Jackson's one of these people. And it was a crazy stat that I found about Bo Jackson because he was just one of the examples of it. And I don't think people realize this. Do you realize that Jim Harbaugh has more rushing yards than Bo Jackson?
I did not.
Let that sink in.
Yeah, that is.
Jim Harbaugh has rushed for more yards in the NFL than Bo Jackson. But we have this, and I used to get on Longhorn fans about this too, because I did a similar thing with Ricky Williams and Earl Campbell years ago, that Ricky Williams has rushed for more yards than Earl Campbell. People were like, no, that's not true. I was like, yes, it is true. Earl Campbell has only rushed for he's less than 10,000 yards total rushing.
Yes, but those were both really good running backs.
They were. But my point is, we misremember, the perception was that they accomplished more, achieved more than they actually did. So we kind of misremember. There's a sort of a Mandela effect with it. Anyway, stats like that kind of, I went down a rabbit hole with stats like that. And essentially, the question that I have for you guys on the Specs text line is, give me a stat that's so mind-blowing it seems fake. I did NFL. Name an NFL stat that seems fake, but it's real. I got a bunch of these, and they're unbelievable. I'll give you another one. Here's another, because the Jim Harbaugh one is like, what? Jim Harbaugh is more rushing yards than Bo Jackson? Yes, he does. How about this? This is a good one about Patrick Mahomes. And it's a recent one. Some people probably already know this too, but it's freaky and weird. Patrick Mahomes has 3 Super Bowl appearances, 2 wins in that time span, right? In 5 years, not 1 road playoff game. And it makes sense when you think about it.
It does, but yeah.
It's like, how the hell do you? Yeah, actually, no.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because and now you can call it a neutral site in Super Bowl, whatever. But in terms of a true road playoff game, no. And by the way, speaking of going back to Patrick Mahomes stats that are crazy like that, he's undefeated in road division games. Undefeated. He has not lost a road division game since he's been with Kansas City. Never. Texter has one that I had too, that I love. It's about Larry Fitzgerald. It's a great one too. I appreciate Texter throwing this out there because I found it too. Larry Fitzgerald has more tackles than drop passes in his career. 41-29. He's a wide receiver with more tackles than drops in his career. Great stat. Great freaky stat. What the hell is that? I got a bunch of these. Oh, okay. I'm going to save that one for next segment because that was one of the freakiest ones. How about this one about Bears quarterbacks? Bears quarterbacks, the history of the organization, have more 1,000-yard rushing seasons than 4,000-yard passing seasons. Because they haven't had any 4,000-yard passers. They've only got Justin Fields to rush for 1,000 yards. That's it.
Yeah, it's
one of those, you think about it, damn, that is true. That's crazy.
Yeah, there's a lot of those.
Oh, it's a bunch of these. I got some that are gonna be fun. So we'll do that.
Okay.
Next segment.
I like that.
We'll dive into some of these because I got some more that are just crazy. Really just unbelievable. Okay, let's get some NFL news. So we'll do that. So Specs text line 512-337-3776. Give me all crazy stats. It has to be NFL. Give me wild, crazy stats that nobody would believe are true or so damn cartoonish. Give me that, and we'll do that coming up next segment in Raj Round the Day. All right, so Bill Barnwell, he did a ranking of all the position groups in the NFL. Everything, take quarterback out of it, take O-line out of it. So we're talking about offensive position groups, so weaponry overall, running back, tight end, wide receiver. And he ranked those teams to who has the best overall weaponry in the NFL, if you want to put it that way. He's got San Fran number 1, which is not shocking. Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, Kittle. I mean, they are loaded. They don't know who the quarterback's going to be, but I don't think it matters because you got so many weapons. Yeah. It's dude, just distribute the football. They got the Bengals number 2, Eagles number 3, and that makes sense. Bengals, one of the best wide receiving cores out there with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Those guys are loaded. Philadelphia Eagles kind of goes back to their wide receivers too because they are loaded with obviously A.J. Brown and then Devontae Smith, 2,000-yard receivers there. They got Seattle 4th. Don't sleep on Seattle skill positions, guys. Think about it. They drafted Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Yeah.
With Tyler Lockett, with DK Metcalf, and the running back from Michigan State who names escape Smith at the current moment. He's really good. I know. He's a real good player. I forget his name right now, but he's a really good rookie running. Actually, him and Damian Pierce are probably the best rookie running backs last season. They got the Chargers at number 5.
Kenneth
Walker. Thank you very much. They got the Chargers at number 5. So Kellen Moore. Good for him. Minnesota.
They got another rookie wide receiver there with Mike Williams. Right. So they got another piece there as well.
Forgot about Quentin Johnston. You're right.
Quentin Johnson went there.
man, they got some big wideouts. And they got Eckler. Eckler re-signed for time being. I think a short time.
Yes.
So it's a short-term deal. But they got a lot of weapons, too. They got Minnesota at 6, which I understand because they just drafted the kid out of USC, Jordan Addison, with Justin Jefferson. So they got some wideouts there.
And they traded for Hawkinson last year, too, right?
Good point.
Tight end.
Forget about that.
And, I mean, and everybody says that now the kid, I can't remember any names now. The running back, they just got rid of Dalvin Cook, the kid they got rid of him for.
Yes. You're right. I can't think of his name at the time either, but you're right. They did. They are confident in their running back room. They got Dallas at number 7. With, of course, you have CeeDee Lamb, you have Michael Gallup. Obviously, bringing in Brandon Cooks. Still a little unsure about what they're going to do at tight end, but they drafted Schoonmaker. They really like Jake Ferguson. Running back, as long as Tony Pollard's healthy, he's one of the most explosive running backs in the league. But how long is it going to take him to get 100% healthy is the question.
And how many snaps can he carry? And Deuce Vaughn is going to be really good, but is it a change of pace enough of what you need? And how long is it going to take him to get to where he needs to be in NFL? But we will say, if you're saying a weapon, Deuce Vaughn is a weapon.
He is a weapon.
For sure. It's just a question of how different is he than Pollard, and does that work out?
But the Cowboys at 7, because of the wide receiving core, this is the first time in Cowboys history they've had 3 receivers on their roster who've each had 1,000 yards receiving in their careers at any point. And honestly, they got Dallas ahead of Miami. That's interesting. I think Miami maybe doesn't have the depth at receiver because Cowboys have 3 guys who've been 1,000-yard receivers, and maybe they don't like Raheem Mostert more than they like Tony Pollard. But, man, Miami's receivers have way more. Those 2, Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, they are far and away better than the Cowboys receivers. But I guess they're talking about overall productivity from that group. Wide receivers, tight ends, and running backs, too.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess you're devaluing the running back room in Miami.
You are. I agree with that. And they got Jacksonville at 9. I think Jacksonville is pretty loaded at skill talent,
especially with Ridley coming back.
Exactly.
And they kept Evan Ingram there? Is that where Evan Ingram is?
Yes.
So that's another guy. They kept him this offseason.
I think they're pretty loaded, too. And then they got Atlanta at 10. And, of course, we know now with Bijan being added to the group, and they got Tyler Algier, and they got Cordero Patterson and Freaky Kyle Pitts. So that's a loaded group, too. My point is, Bill Barnwell really high on the Cowboys skill talent. Because, like I said, he's got Miami, Jacksonville, Atlanta behind them. He's got them in the top 7. And you could argue, hell, you could potentially take them over Minnesota. So Cowboys' skill group or skill position players right now considered to be pretty lethal. And I also would throw out there, and we'll talk about the Texans here too in a little bit, but I'll throw out there too with the Cowboys, there is a lot of talk that they still aren't done in free agency. They can still add something. And if they're going to add something, I wonder if it'll be on offense. And I wonder if it'll be another running back. To me, the only other position where they actually absolutely need help and they need reinforcements is running back. I don't know if they can afford Dalvin Cook, but there are other running backs out there. I think the Cowboys may be waiting on the market to devalue as time goes on, and then they can swoop in and get it at a discount.
I mean, the market and running backs devaluing seems like a hard thing to do. I think you're waiting for training camp. You're waiting for getting into preseason and seeing a team that the trade value may a little bit too of a team that has, because they're affordable now. You go, we got 3 guys and we can't play him, and so we can't have this guy being a third running back because he's going to be a problem in the locker room if he doesn't get any playing time because we promised him that he was going to play when we signed him.
Yeah.
So you may, and that's how Dalvin Cook was.
It
was that thing where it's like, look, it's not like we want to really get rid of Dalvin Cook, but we know we expect Madison is the name. We expect Madison to take the lion's share of the carries, and Dalvin Cook is not going to be happy with that. So we don't want to do that because now it's going to cause problems, and then we're paying the one guy more. And so let's just cut him. Let's just cut him and get rid of that whole problem off the bat. That'll happen for a few more teams. Now, you're not going to get a guy at Dalvin Cook's level, but you could get somebody who is a solid number 2, which is really what you need with Tony Pollard, because you're paying Tony Pollard $10 million. He's supposed to be your number 1. You just need a really solid, this guy can carry the ball for us 15 to 20 times a game and get, good pass pro and can do the hard carries and beat up a D line a little bit more. Those types of things what you need out of a guy. But if you're gonna make Tony Pollard the focal point, that's fine. I don't know if Deuce Vaughn is the full answer, and I can pretty much tell you it's not Malik Davis or Ronald Jones.
Yeah. No, you're right about that. I agree. I don't think those are every down backs. I think they got a nice supporting group right now. They still need a bell cow for the most part. This is the Texans. Bill Barnwell has their skill position ranking at 31st. They were 32nd last year, so I guess it is improved.
Move it up.
Yeah, they lost Brandon Cooks and moved up somehow, so good for them. But I think he brings up Robert Woods being added to the receiving core. Nico Collins finishing strong last season, adding a guy like Tank Dell as well. Remember John Mechie had his health issues last season, and he's going to be coming back, hopefully contributing to the squad. So they got some guys.
Dalton Schultz?
Noah Brown.
But Dalton Schultz, for me, there's a lot of teams that would like to have him at tight end.
That was your steal.
So to have that as a actual guy at tight end, especially for a rookie quarterback, I love tight ends with rookie quarterbacks because now everything's happening fast. Tight ends, a lot of those routes are designed to just get easy passes you can get open. They're going to get a lot of receptions. Just if Dalton Schultz can do what he did for Dak Prescott, build that rapport with C.J. Stroud, those routes where you have a young wide receiver, young quarterback, and a defensive scheme, you're playing a team like the Patriots with a defensive mind like that where they're showing you a bunch of different looks. Sometimes you just got to ditch the ball off, and
Safety
that's
blanket.
where a guy like Dalton can be huge.
I totally agree. That's why I usually become like a best friend for a young quarterback, that tight end, because usually that's the safety blanket, and that's what Dalton Schultz could be too. So he was Dak's favorite target, so he could easily become that for C.J. Stroud. All right, we come back. We'll go over the most unbelievable stats that we could find. Mine are from the NFL, but I'll take yours on the Specs text line from any sport. And we'll also get into a little Texas football discussion about the defense. A lot of love being shown for this part of that Texas defense, and we'll discuss it right here on Ball Don't Lie, 104.9 The Horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. Everybody knows that I love me some Bud Light. What's not to love? It is my favorite beer, my go-to beer. That's the reason that it's the world's favorite light beer, because it fits any and every occasion. No matter what I'm doing, I can always find a good reason to break out the Bud Light. Maybe it's a happy hour. Maybe on a day like today, going to hang out with some of my peeps. Maybe it's dinner, hanging out with friends and family, enjoying the world's favorite light beer. Maybe I'm enjoying the Austin nightlife. I'm going out to meet some friends, and trust me, the sure sign of a good time is the perfect beverage for all of your nightlife activities here in the ATX. Doesn't really matter what you're doing, Bud Light always the perfect fit. Still my go-to beer for my Longhorn tailgates on Saturdays and NFL Sundays. So whether you want to toast and cheers to a brighter tomorrow or drown your sorrows, it's never a bad time to break out the Bud Light. Bud Light isn't just for anybody, it's for everybody. So remember, Bud Light turns good times into great times and the rest of the times into the best of times. So remember, Bud Light is my favorite beer, should be yours too. Bud Light, brewed deep in the heart of Texans, by Texans, for Texans, and proud of it. All right, welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. You can always hit us up via Twitter. I'm at Rod Babers in Twitterverse. Man, Patrick is at It's Patrick Davis in the Twitterverse. Like I said, my man Harge is out on vacation, well-deserved. You can cyberstalk him if you want at Hardball Harge. Specs text line 512-337-3776. Okay, I want to get to a couple of these crazy stats here because I went down a rabbit hole last night. And it started with just one or two stats that I thought were interesting, and then I just couldn't stop myself. So basically what I wanted to know from you guys is basically any stat from a sport, player, athlete, whatever, that is so unbelievable that, it seems fake, but it's true. It's just that good. So here is a list of the ones that I have collected. So I'll read some of the ones that you guys have collected too. Here's one that the ones that I collected I thought is crazy. So Tom Brady's got a bunch of these, by the way. It's hard to narrow them down with Tom Brady. One of the best kind of mind-blowing, just stupefying stats about Tom Brady. He threw more touchdown passes in his 40s than he did in his 20s. That is a crazy stat about Tom Brady that's real but seems fake. More TD passes in his 40s than his 20s. If you go look at players who threw 50-plus passes in a game, there's an unbelievable stat for Tom Brady. Players who threw at least 50 passes in a game. He's 25-14 when he throws at least 50 passes in a game. 64% win percentage. Every other quarterback combined, 134-5, 29-10. The rest of the NFL quarterbacks in the history of the league have won 19%, a little under 20% of their games where they throw at least 50 passes. Tom Brady's won 64% of them. When it's all Tom Brady, you still got a great chance to win. Everybody else, when they're throwing 50 or something passes, your chances to win drop precipitously. How about this? No other quarterback has won more than 5 career games throwing 50-plus passes. Tom Brady's won 25. Nobody else has won more than 5. You go to the postseason, 6-4 in such games in the postseason, 60% win percentage. All other quarterbacks combined NFL history in the postseason throwing at least 50 passes, 3-34. Tom, you can do that honestly, you can do that with Tom Brady stats all damn day. Like, he's got a bunch of those. I just grabbed one or two that I thought were really interesting. Gave you the stat last segment that Jim Harbaugh has more rushing yards than Bo Jackson. That's where all this started. That was a Mandela effect when I found that stat and thought to myself, there's no freaking way that Jim Harbaugh has got more rushing yards than Bo Jackson. I was wrong, he does. He's got more rushing yards than Bo Jackson. How about this? Bo Jackson, strangely enough, basically 10% of all of his rushing yards in NFL history came on 3 runs. 10% of all Bo Jackson's rushing yards in the NFL came on 3 runs. I'm not making it up. It's actually like 9.74%. He had a 91-yarder, a 92-yarder, and an 88-yarder. One thing about Bo Jackson, I don't know if anybody else broke as many long runs as he did. 91, 92, and 88. He didn't play that long. Okay. Getting back to it. Okay, here's another one that's hard to believe, but it's true. But it's just Tim Tebow stuff. Got some Tim Tebow stuff for you. Tim Tebow is the only quarterback in Broncos history to be drafted by the team and win a playoff game. I repeat. Tim Tebow is the only quarterback in Broncos franchise history drafted by the team and also won a playoff game. I know. I agree. He's like, what? No, yep. Go look it up. I had to do the same thing because I'm like, I didn't believe that. It is really crazy. It makes no sense at all, but it's up there. How about this one about Tim Tebow? This is a great one about Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow had a 13 average depth of target in 2011. 13-yard average depth of target. Crazy. That was in 2011. And no quarterback with at least 200 pass attempts having even an 11.1 average depth of target since. So he had a 13-yard average depth of target in 2011. No quarterback with at least 200 pass attempts has even been above 11.1 average depth of target since. That's Tebow. I know. It's like, that's true. That's true. Crazy. guess we'll stick with the Broncos here. It's kind of weird. This is a weird one, too. This will lead us to a freakier stat about Reggie White. So in 1987, this was like the strike-shortened season. John Elway threw 19 touchdowns and 12 interceptions. He won MVP. Like, I don't know how that I swear, I was like, that's not real.
What year is it?
1987. Like, how does that happen? Like, I'm serious. Like, I don't know. I'm asking, how does that happen? He won MVP that year. And you go look at, I'll give you his passing stats. Here they go right here. I just pulled them up. Here is Johnny Elway's passing stats. He was 54% completion percentage, 3,198 yards, 19 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. And I look at Football Reference, MVP, John Elway. Hey, by the way, you want to know what's crazy about that same year? Let's look at Jerry Rice's stats. Jerry Rice had 22 receiving touchdowns. And he didn't win MVP. How did he win MVP?
Yeah.
He had 22 receiving touchdowns. 22. They gave it to John Elway. Talk about a sham.
Joe Montana had 31 touchdowns and 13 interceptions in 97.
In 97? In 87, right?
Sorry, yeah.
Isn't it crazy? Like, I don't know what happened.
He only had like 140 less yards.
I don't know what happened. Like, I don't know what happened there. That was weird. I mean, I look at his rushing stats, so I'm sure his rushing stats are great, but that's kind of wild, right?
I mean, he had 4 rushing touchdowns, 300 yards, 4 rushing touchdowns. Elway did.
Yeah,
that's not enough.
It's weird, right? Okay, so that leads us to talking about that 87 season. Reggie White, crazy Reggie White stats. Reggie White set the NFL sack record with 12 games that season with 21 sacks. It was a shortened season.
Jeez.
How about this? Until his 10th season in the NFL. So basically, all of his time with the Eagles, his entire time with the Eagles, Reggie White had more sacks than games played.
That's a good value. That's a good value.
He had more sacks than games played. How the hell do you have more sacks than games played? 124 sacks, 120 games played. That's a hell of a freaky stat. Reggie White's got a bunch of these, actually, that I could go over. Okay, here's another one. I gave this one earlier, and a texter gave it too. Larry Fitzgerald has more tackles in his career than drop passes, 41 to 29. That's freaky. Love that one. This one doesn't get enough love. Joe Thomas, you realize he went 11 straight years without missing a start? Without missing a play.
Without missing a play.
Without missing a play. A play. He had 10,363 consecutive plays without missing a snap on the O-line.
That's insane. That's an insane number.
How does that happen?
Yeah. That is, how many lies has he told about how hurt he is?
Right?
How many times, are you okay? And he's like, yeah. They're like, pretty sure your foot's dangling there.
I'm sure your bones poking out, protruding out of your skin. Yeah, no, that might be in the freakiest one yet. You play on the O-line in the NFL, and you go 11 straight years without missing a play. A play.
I mean,
just start a play.
Just oh man, I rolled my ankle, get off for a play.
Exactly. One play. My helmet popped off. Whatever.
Yeah. Guy popped me in the throat.
Exactly.
Give me a play.
I lost my breath for not one play.
Hey, I just ran down the field on a holding penalty. I just ran 80 yards on a holding penalty.
Take me out, coach, for one play. No, he never came out. It is the craziest thing, man. Okay, how about this one? I love Barry Sanders, but the knock against Barry Sanders is probably this crazy stat, that Barry Sanders holds the all-time record for yards lost for a running back, which makes sense if you ever watch Barry play.
Yeah.
Barry would risk it all.
Yes.
Just to get the big play. And there were times where he chose poorly. And that's why a lot of people who argue Emmett over Barry, they'll take that stat and be like, well, Emmett didn't lose you a lot of yards. Barry would lose you yards. But Barry didn't play with an offensive line that was the greatest offensive line argument in the history of in the NFL. Also not the case there. Let's talk about some more recent stats here. Got a bunch of these. I gave you the Bears one earlier. The Bears have more 1,000-yard rushing seasons for Bears quarterbacks than 4,000-yard passing seasons. That happened last year because Justin Fields rushed for 1,000 yards, became I think the fourth quarterback to do so, and no Bears quarterback has ever thrown for 4,000 yards. So there are more Bears quarterbacks with 1,000-yard rushing seasons than 4,000-yard passing seasons. Not a great stat. Love the Patrick Mahomes stat that I gave earlier, that Patrick Mahomes has 3 Super Bowl appearances and 2 wins in 5 years, no road playoff games. Speaking of the road, he has never lost in a road division game in the AFC West. Guy's still perfect when he goes on the road in the AFC West. Somebody's got to figure that out. Another little stat here for you. How about this one? If you go look at and I've looked at different things. This is a recent one for the AFC East. This is for the Jets, the Jets, Jets. Show how good their defense is and how terrible they were as a team, but they were really good defensively. In the AFC East last year, against the AFC East, the Jets defense allowed 2 passing touchdowns the entire season against their own division. Just 2 passes. They had 23 sacks against their division. In division, they had 23 sacks, only allowed 2 passing touchdowns, and they had 5 takeaways. It's really impressive. They were 2-4. That's how bad their offense is. In that division, they had 23 sacks. They only allowed 2 passing touchdowns, had 5 takeaways, and they went 2-4 in that division. It's like,
got to fix some things right there.
It's like, come on, man. That is embarrassing. So there you go. I got a bunch of these. I don't know if I can.
I'll give you one that I saw earlier this year, and I had to just look back up about Greg Maddux.
Give it to me.
That Greg Maddux from 95 to 2003, not including intentionally walked, through 8,025 batters in that year.
Mm-hmm.
He threw 8,006 called balls. That's less than a ball per batter faced through a 9-year span.
In 9 years,
less than a ball, and he one season had 24 walks that were not intentional. Like his numbers when he was at his prime
He's
of
a
walking
machine.
It's absurd that you're like, that's not. I mean, there's relievers without those numbers.
You're
like relief pitchers pitching 1 inning every other game, and they don't have those walk numbers that he does.
That is freaky efficient, man.
Yes,
like there is like that.
It's crazy
machine-like efficiency. That is a great stat.
And that's how good your stuff is, that they're either chasing or it's in the strike zone and they can't hit it over and over and over and over, and you're winning Cy Youngs.
Man, that's a great stat. That's a great stat. You're like, no, I got to look that up. That can't be right. Like, no, that is right. That's basically the whole premise of that segment. I went down a rabbit hole looking at stuff like that and was just mind blown. So thanks to all the texters. One texter wanted to know who was the 41 tackle, 29 drop wide receiver. Larry Fitzgerald, 29 tackles as opposed to 41 tackles as opposed to 29 drops in his career.
That seems like that could have been Andre Johnson or DeAndre Hopkins. That seems because you got to be a really good receiver on a bad team. Because they got to throw a lot of interceptions.
Exactly. You're going to be playing defense a little bit. Keep that in mind. Somebody got me a Gretzky stat here. Said Gretzky could have ended his career with 1,370 game pointless streak and still would have been a point per game player. He could go more than 16 years without a point and still average a point per game in his career. Yeah, Gretzky's got some freaky stats too. GOAT stat type stuff. Shohei Ohtani's going to be on this list too. We could just read Shohei Ohtani stats right now, and he would belong on this list.
Shohei Ohtani, I think, is going to have stats that you're going to read off pitching stats and hitting stats, and then be like, that's the same guy.
Yeah,
that's
true.
It is the greatest hitter and greatest pitcher, and that's the same guy.
Yeah, no, that's that is. Yeah, you're right. He could be in that conversation.
Yeah.
One texter says more people have walked on the moon than scored on Mariano Rivera in the postseason. Yeah, that's a hell of a thing to say. That's a hell of a thing to drop on people.
Yeah,
that little nugget in fact. Yeah, more people have walked on the moon than have scored on me in the postseason. Just so you know. All right, good stuff there.
That's true for me too, by the way.
Yeah, seriously.
He may have a few more games than I do in the postseason, but also true for me.
Oh, I like it. All right, we come back. We'll get a little off the record. We'll try to play this Larry Bird sound. Sorry, the Rodman sound talking about Larry Bird if we have the time. Right here on Ball Don't Lie, 104.9. Welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. Top of the charts Tuesday. That's when the Idillionaire Patrick plays jams that reached the top of the Billboard charts on this day in history. Oh, I recognize this jam. Whitney Houston?
Whitney Houston.
Yeah.
Want to dance with somebody.
Oh, man. Very, very talented. Forget how talented Whitney Houston was. All right, let's get back to some of the other talented folks out there in the sports world. Dennis Rodman recently had some very unflattering things to say about one of the game's great players, Larry Bird. He was on a podcast when he said this about Larry Bird.
If Larry Bird played in this era, I think he'd be in Europe. So I'm just letting you know, man. Really, like I said, don't you say he would be somewhere over there. Because, I think his game was fit for Boston at that time in the 80s and stuff like that, But today's world, oh, hell no. There's no way. I'm not downplaying him because he's a great player at that time, just like I was. But I'm saying, no, there's no way. No way. I think the kid from Denver is way better than him.
All right. You're a basketball guy. First of all, you think Jokic is better than Larry Bird? Let's start with his last statement and then work our way back to he'll be playing in Europe.
Not yet.
But he's only
going to have 3 or 4 more really good years. 3 more really good years and he's getting really close because Larry Bird didn't have a long career. Once he had that back injury, it kind of went downhill.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, that's one of those all-time bad takes.
Yeah, well, the last part of it, I said the last part of it wasn't terrible. That was kind of just a hot take, and I think it's better.
Because
that could become, like you said, a reality in 4 years if Jokic keeps on this kind of pace. Yeah. Boot Larry Bird.
Also, when you say that guy from Denver, it tells me that your basketball take is maybe a little bit flawed. You're going with,
that dude from Denver.
The MVP? 2-time MVP, that guy?
That is true. That's fair.
But also, the biggest part of this one when he goes, I was a good player too. You're like, you're not in the ballpark.
Not
of Larry Bird.
Yeah, not of Larry Bird.
Larry Bird is in that. I think he's top 15. I'll give him top 15 all time of what he did when he played and he was so good. And the funny part is he'd be better in today's game than he was then
because
he doesn't have to play as much defense.
And the 3-point shot is emphasized now more.
But you're like, the problem is you'd be like, oh, well, his defense is like, who cares? There's a million of those guys now that can score but don't play a ton of defense. They would just put defenders around him and he'd average 40 a game.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that.
It's such a terrible take, but it's just clearly Larry Bird had a lot of trash talk back in the day, and I think he probably said some things to Dennis Rodman that hit a little too close to home, and he has just forever been like, oh, he's not that much better than me. I defended him on that, and he's not that much. And you're like, yeah, on that one where when his back was gone, and you got in there and you bumped him a whole bunch because they can't bump him now either. The way you used to guard him, you can't guard him anymore.
Agreed. And I think because going back to what was that old comment that Dennis Rodman made about Larry Bird that if he was black, he'd be considered an average player.
Yeah, stuff like he has a problem with him.
By the way, he did. I don't know if he apologized for it, but he said he regretted. I think that statement. So I'm not throwing it out there just to bring up old stuff, but I do think it kind of sheds light on he's got something out for Larry Bird. He don't really like Larry Bird. You know what I mean? I don't know what it is, but he's made specific comments about Larry Bird in the last, that's a long time ago. That was like in the 80s. But him saying that he would be, I don't know, he would be over in Europe playing, that's crazy.
That's crazy.
That's asinine.
It's up there for the worst NBA takes ever. This one's worse.
Yeah, that's a really bad one. Like I said, the part about the Jokic at the end is not a terrible take. That's actually considered a hot take.
Yeah.
But yeah, about the Larry Bird thing.
This right here is the worst take.
It is.
The whole time I've been thinking that Pop was a bad coach.
Why would you think that?
Because he's just been losing without good players.
The finesse is
when you're losing without good players.
Is that a serious statement he made?
Yeah.
No, he's serious about everything. Do you honestly believe that?
Yeah. Can I continue? So Pop, since when? What, Kawhi? We ain't seen nothing. You've been tanking this whole time and we ain't been paying attention. But now we're gonna give him credit for being a good coach. Got no good players and he not winning. But I know how to back my I know Greg Popovich ain't no good coach. You got 3 excellent.
Since you say that, right? Was Tony Parker?
There we go.
Wow. And who was that?
That is Rashad McCants on Gilbert Arenas' podcast. Yeah.
Pop's not a good coach because he hasn't been winning since he's lost his star power.
Yeah, and I believe and Kenny Martin looks like he wants to hit him when he does that. And then the best part is they're like, well, he did it with good players. Like, how do you think they were good players? Like, he made Manu and Tony Parker Hall of Famers. He goes, are they Hall of Famers? Like, yes. Yes, they're Hall of Famers.
Yes, they are Hall of Famers. Yeah,
and they're both in. Like Tony,
and it's like basically what coach are you going to give props to in NBA history if your theory is what you're going to apply to every argument?
Yes.
Basically, Larry Brown is the only one you're giving props to. Like, who are we giving props to?
Yeah, the fact that it's an insane argument for the all-time winningest coach in NBA history.
Yeah. Now, say overrated. That okay?
Yeah.
Now, I disagree, but you're entitled to overrated opinion.
He is a bad coach.
Yes.
It is the all-time worst take I've ever heard.
That is bad.
And and he did it while he was wearing a crown. So if you want to be made a fool, that Gilbert Arenas podcast has some crazy takes on it.
But not that crazy.
No, that one.
That's like when Alex Jones was trying to tell Kanye to, hold up, man, you don't like Hitler.
Yeah. When Gilbert Arenas is defending the Spurs, you know it's a bad take.
That's what I'm saying. Oh, you're right. That was a palate cleanser because that was terribly bad. That was really, really bad. All right. So, someone said, but Dennis dated Madonna. Yeah, Dennis has done some wild stuff. He also broke his junk 3 times. Yeah, that's a true story. Based on what Dennis Rodman has told us. Dennis Rodman claims that and maybe it's not his claim. He also claims that his father was married like 16 times. Have you heard the story?
Yeah, he has a lot of that.
And has 29 siblings. Like he has 20. He's the oldest of 20 something siblings. He says this. This is from his mouth.
He needs that Maury Povich test we talked about.
He needs to. Well, the dad does, or whoever the dad is. Yeah, he's being fruitful and trying to multiply at his damnedest there. All right, we come back. We'll get into some LSU discussion. They won the national title. There's a lesson to be learned for the Burnt Orange faithful. We'll talk about that. And Trent Dilfer is threatening opposing coaches. We'll play that audio as well. All that and more right here on Ball Don't Lie. I want to put on the horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. We know Austin is a beautiful city, a magnificent one. That's why we all call it home. We're proud to call it home. And part of the reason that Austin is so popular is because of the unique aesthetic appeal of Austin. And part of the reason that the aesthetic appeal is so great is because the skilled craftsmanship of Ironworkers Local 482. They've been helping shape Austin since 1935. That's a really long time. And you see the labors of their love all over this great city in iconic landmarks like DKR Stadium and the Pennybacker Bridge. And as the city continues to grow and thrive, so do our friends at Ironworkers Local 482. They don't go to the office, they build it. So if you're looking for an exciting new career path, maybe you're frustrated with your work choices, maybe you want something new, something fresh, something that will challenge you, you can become a valued member of Ironworkers Local 482 and accept the challenge of becoming the best version of yourself while helping shape Austin's economic development. Right now, they're hiring over 3,000 people for a huge project right here in Central Texas, and you can become a valued member of Ironworkers Local 482 and take pride in the type of teamwork and craftsmanship that helps shape the future of our great city. So maximize your potential today and be your best self. Simply apply at ironworkers482.org. That's ironworkers482.org. Welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. It is a Top of the Charts Tuesday. That's when Patrick the Ideationaire takes jams that reach the top of the Billboard charts on this day in history and then makes up a Top of the Charts Tuesday. We appreciate all of his efforts on all the musically themed days of the week. Also, you can reach out to us via the Spec text line, 512-337-3776. Also, the Twitterverse is wide open for you as well. My man Patrick is at It's Patrick Davis in the Twitterverse. I'm at Rod Babers in the Twitterverse. Before we get to the LSU championship win for them in college baseball, and also we're going to talk some transfer portal discussion here too. I think they are the two stories are linked that we're going to get to here. But a really sad story here, and it just broke not too long ago. Ryan Mallett apparently was in some type of swimming accident, and it has been reported that Ryan Mallett had drowned and passed away, as folks on the Specs text line are remarking about as well. But several outlets reporting that Ryan Mallett, the former quarterback for Arkansas, and remember he was with the Texans for a little while too, bounced around the league a little bit. They're saying that he passed away in some type of swimming accident. It's horrible news. That is terrible. So thoughts and prayers with his family. Sure, 6 degrees of separation. Somebody probably in this community is really close to him, because I know a lot of people actually that know him, or at least had some interaction with him personally, because he was so obviously linked to SEC football with Arkansas and then with the Texans in the NFL. So really sad news, man. That's really unfortunate. I'm really saddened to hear that. So thoughts and prayers with his family. That's just so crazy. I don't know how old he is, but he got done playing probably, 5 years ago? Maybe 2017, 2018?
Yeah.
Just got done playing. So, I mean, you're talking about young, healthy, in his prime.
Going to coaching?
Was he coached at the time as well?
I believe he's coaching high school.
Okay. Man, that's a horrible story. So, once again, you never know, folks. Please make sure, tell people in your life how you feel about them, that you care about them, and please be safe out there. That is just a crazy accident that happened. I'm assuming it was an accident of some kind. Okay, so that news is out there, unfortunately. That's out there. Also, we'll get back to some Major League Baseball discussion coming up next segment. We'll talk about the Rangers and their loss yesterday. They got to play the Tigers tonight. Astros starting up a series versus the Cardinals, but later on this week, the Astros and the Rangers will be facing off, and that's going to be right before the All-Star break. That is a huge series. Really kind of determine how these teams could potentially finish off the second half of the baseball season. Right now, the Astros in second. They're battling it out with the Angels. About a half a game separates them, and both of those teams about 5 to 5.5 games behind the actual Rangers. Okay, let's get to the LSU National Championship win. Wasn't much drama in the game itself, but it was a definitive butt whipping that LSU put on Florida to really cement themselves as the best team in the country. They beat them 18-4. LSU, give them props as a program, too. I hate to give Scott Woodard this much props, but, man, he's done a hell of a job as the AD at LSU. Remember, he made 3 coaching hires in a 7-month span. He hired Kim Mulkey for women's basketball, hired Brian Kelly to coach football, and hired Jay Johnson to coach the baseball team. 2 of them have national titles, and 1 represented the SEC West in the SEC title game. Just got beat by Georgia, but ain't no shame in that. But, yeah, that's a hell of a – and by the way, look at it. Since this success they've had recently, they're the first D1 school to win a basketball championship, women or men's, and a baseball title in the same year. And, of course, yes, they win their 7th national title in baseball, which passes up Texas. Surpasses Texas, a tie they had with Texas. So now they are 2nd in the national titles in baseball, only behind USC. That's it. So LSU sports right now, just LSU athletic department right now, functioning at a really, really high level. And getting back to this LSU baseball team specifically, they got a lot of great players. And the best player potentially on the team right now, Dylan Cruz, a lot of great stats about him. He actually has a record, or at least I'm assuming it's done because he's going to get drafted into the majors. But he ended his career on a 75-game streak of reaching base. 75 straight games, he found a way to reach base. He's the 4th player in college baseball history to win the Golden Spikes Award for the best player in college baseball and a national title. He also has a really good chance to be drafted number 1 overall, so it makes that list even shorter. You're talking about elite rarefied air for him. He batted .426. As a matter of fact, he had a hit in 58 of the 71 games that were played, and I believe he got a hit against 30 of the 33 teams that he ended up playing. Yeah, man, Dylan Cruz really showed out. 18 home runs, 70 RBIs in this season, but he's just one of the studs that LSU had playing for him. 2 other guys three other guys, I should say, 3 starters for them, they actually acquired via the transfer portal. Paul Skeens from Air Force, Tommy Tanks White from NC State, and Thatcher Hurd, I believe, out of UCLA. Got those guys via the transfer portal, and there are a lot of people that believe that talent infusion really pushed them over the top, and that's why they are the national champions today. Jay Johnson, the LSU manager, after they beat Wake Forest, he made a comment that really raised some eyebrows. Essentially, he was bragging about LSU's basically their prowess as an NIL power. Here is Jay Johnson after they beat Wake Forest talking about the LSU status in the NIL arms race.
And lastly, look to my left. If you're one of the best players in the transfer portal, there's only one place to come play because last summer I spent a lot of time with these young men, and I think they would tell you they made the right choice. So I'd want to join forces with them if they're out there.
Wow. Essentially, that's a call to arms. It's like, hey, man, what we doing in the NIL game is there's no competition for it. Nobody can hang with us when it comes to the baseball NIL arms race that we're in right now. We just proved it because we acquired all this top-notch talent. We paid that top-notch talent what they were worth in the NIL value, and also we maximized it because we won a national title with it.
We're getting them drafted.
And they're getting them drafted. Exactly. It literally is a win-win for everybody. And honestly, it reminded me of Suge Knight when Suge Knight called out Bad Boy and P. Diddy at the Source Awards.
I'd like to tell Tupac to keep his guards up. We ride with him. And one other thing I'd like to say, any artist out there want to be an artist and want to stay a star, and don't want to have to worry about the executive producer trying to be all in the videos, all on the record, dancing. Come to Death Row.
That's LSU. Come to LSU. You don't want to have to, worry about, not getting drafted as high as you're supposed to, not getting your NIL value, not competing for championships. Come to LSU. That was a Suge Knight death row-like call to arms for LSU. And you know what? It's probably going to work. It's going to be effective. Wake Forest just lost 2 players. Hell, they were 2 games away from playing in the College World Series finale, and they just had 2 players skip to the transfer portal. 23 combined home runs between Danny Corona and Adam Cesare. Tennessee just lost a burner on the mound for them, 6'3" right-hander who had a 2.9 ERA as a freshman, throws about 103 miles per hour. He's in the portal because he's like, hey, if I throw over 100+, that's worth a lot more in the portal than it is at Tennessee. Everybody wants to get to the portal because the portal will be able to determine your free market value. And LSU, you got to give them some props. They are right now proving, at least in the from the baseball standpoint, that they're a winner in the NIL world. They're bragging about it. This is brash and cocky about we know how to weaponize NIL. We know how to maximize the talent, and we just need more of y'all to come over so we can keep this party going. And they right now have the best players money can buy. Reminds me of that old line from Blue Chips.
That guy's got the best players money can buy. The best players money can buy.
The best players money can buy. Love that line from Nick Nolte. Is that the best Nick Nolte that we've seen? Like, what's Nick Nolte's most iconic role?
Hey, Dad, 48 Hours.
48 Hours is a good one. But honestly, I like him in Blue Chips more than I like him in 48 Hours. Yeah. He was fantastic in Blue Chips.
Yeah, that's a good one.
It was amazing. I mean, literally, that rant, that little monologue he gives at the end there. There's Happy going to the cash machine. He's going to buy himself a middle linebacker. He's going to buy the best players money can buy. Oh, it's great. And it really is. I think it's fitting. LSU, best players money can buy.
And it's working.
It is working. So the lesson for Texas baseball is go get the best players money can buy. What are we waiting on here? I gave you the numbers. Austin Business Journal, great story they had earlier this year. They actually went deep diving and found the numbers for every sport at Texas and the NIL compensation received. And since the NIL became the law of the land, of course, football was top. The top program NIL compensation with over 60% of all the NIL compensation at Texas going straight to the football team. Men's basketball team, they're at 21.3%. They're right over 21%. So they're against. You're talking about 82% of all your NIL compensation is coming just from football and basketball. Everybody else has got to get in where they fit in with the rest of the 18%. And you know where baseball is at? Less than 1%. Less than 1% of the NIL compensation on the 40 acres is dedicated to baseball. Men's track and field is higher. Men's golf is higher. Women's volleyball doubles the amount of NIL compensation, actually more than doubles the amount of NIL compensation that men's baseball gets. Men's swimming and diving, women's basketball, women's swimming and diving, softball damn near triples the amount of money, the percentage of NIL compensation that baseball gets. I'm not saying you got to beat football or basketball, but you ain't going to come close to competing with LSU in that league if you're not worried to spend some money in this league. Yeah. That's Bush League.
Hey, and guess who else is in that league? Florida.
Yeah, exactly. And they're all spending money. They're spending a lot of it. So I think that's the wake-up call for Texas baseball is that, all right, if LSU's at the point now where they're bragging about their NIL prowess on the way to winning their national championship, and we all see that their NIL efforts have paid huge dividends, and that may be the thing that pushed them over the top, and other teams are going to follow suit and follow that example. In Texas baseball, a true blue blood in their respective sports, they need to up the ante. And TexasOneFund.org. Remember, you can go there, and you literally can designate your contribution to whatever sport you want.
You were going to buy Jello shots anyway.
Right?
Take that Jello shot money and go put it at TexasOneFund.org.
Yep. Yeah, and it'll be a great cause. So my thing is, and I wonder, because like I said, we know now different sports can have their own sugar daddies and sugar moms. For those who don't know, I have long gone with the example of the NIL world of the sugar daddies and sugar babies. Essentially, basically the NIL to me, like the NIL policy, NIL law, it is now a way, a conduit, if you will, to allow boosters and donors to now directly contribute to the program and to student athletes themselves. Now, I know it's through directives and collectives, but it's still more of a direct line to compensate student athletes for their skill and for their talent and for their time. Remember, prior to the NIL rule, you couldn't even be around boosters and donors. They're like rules against it. You couldn't even be around them in certain functions, certain times, and you definitely couldn't have them ponying up any type of compensation of any kind. That was against the law, against the rules of the NCAA. So see what the NIL did? It allowed the sugar daddies to be able to directly contribute to the sugar babies. All right? And the sugar babies are the student athletes, and the sugar daddies are the boosters and the donors. BMDs. And think of NIL as basically one of those apps, like sugardaddy.com or sugarbaby.com, whatever. The dating apps that hook up the sugar daddies and the sugar babies, that's what the NIL is. It is a conduit created that is connecting, an online matchmaker, connecting sugar daddies and sugar babies. And that's essentially all this. Now you have access to boosters. That's why a lot of the NIL, I call them that kind of the NIL generation. It's only like 2 years of this. But they've already remarked that they are making connections with CEOs and boosters and donors who own their own companies and who are really high-level executives. And to me, that's the greatest resource. Now, the NIL conversation is awesome. Trust me, I would have taken that too. But the resource that you are going to be able to maximize later in your life, and hopefully you save all your money and you spend it wise and all that kind of stuff too. But the relationship with, I don't know, a Fortune 500 CEO who likes you and admires you, and you be able to have an open line of communication and have, to be able to text and have the phone number of a Fortune 500 CEO. Took me forever to be able to get that kind of access. These guys are getting it freshman year. They can cultivate that relationship. That actually will pay more dividends in the future than the NIL conversation they're getting right now for most of them. Now, some of them, Quinn Ewers, okay, he's getting millions of dollars. That's great. But for most of them, the relationships they get that can help them get a job when they either done playing in the NFL or don't make it to the NFL, that's true in my opinion. That is the biggest advantage of NIL. Because now you truly can connect to the network. It took me a while to get back plugged into the network because I don't know any boosters and donors. Mac Brown used to bring them around practice, but we didn't get to go to dinner with them and hang out with them. They can. They can go out with them. They literally can get their rules now have changed. They can go out with them. They can go endorse their companies. They can go literally work for them.
They go to events with them?
Go all the events with them. That's big, man.
Hey, it's we're doing this thing, and we're bringing the high school kids over. We're bringing my middle school kid. I got a middle school kid. We're going to bring the whole team over. You're going to come over and talk to them for 2 minutes, and then you're going to talk to me for 2 hours, and then we're gonna and then you get paid.
Exactly. Like, come on. I mean, to me, thinking about it now, that is why I'm really happy for these young people. Because it is going to improve their quality of life tremendously in their 40s and their 50s and their 30s, make their life easier. Because the struggle for a lot of the student athletes is, how do I access the network?
Yeah.
I hear about this powerful network. I hear that Texas has the most powerful network of boosters and donors and fans. I hear that Harvard is the only school that has a more powerful network than the University of Texas. How do I access? How do I plug into it?
Yeah, that transition from, even if you do make it to the highest level, that transition from, all right, I played 3 years. Yeah. That's all I've known. My entire life. What do I do next?
How do I take these skills I've learned in these years as a student athlete and playing 3 years in the league, and how do I transition that into a different job? There are skills you learn that you can transition. You just don't know how to transition them.
Well, how do I get in?
And how do I get in?
Oh, when I open the door.
Exactly.
I can sell cars. But that was it for a long time.
Yeah, that was a big part.
Hey, you come in because people know your name, we'll sell cars.
Yep.
But now it's like, no, you can come in, we'll bring you into this business, and we'll help you. If you need to finish your degree, we can get you back in there and get you a degree and get you started here.
And you want to know why? Because now the CEOs, they can vet the kids now.
Yeah.
I got 3-4 years getting to talk to this kid. I can go, you know what? Kid's kind of an a-hole. They don't want that kid work for me. Yeah. Actually, no, he's a great.
He showed up to everything, every event.
Great attitude.
Time.
He's a good people person. He's a guy we should put in human resources. We should put him here. You know what I mean? Like, you got time to vet him. It's that's my favorite part of NIL. It ain't really the compensation. The money is really good. Trust me, it's great. I'm happy for him about the money. Wish I had it too. But more the connections is what I think these young people are really going to. I think they're really gonna. I think flourish because of that later on in their life. But anyway, but even getting back to it for Texas is right now the #1 athletic program in the country when it comes to overall NIL compensation. Matter of fact, that's from Open Doors. I didn't make that up. They're the ones who said Texas is #1 in the country for NIL revenue compensation. So it's no excuse really for baseball to be performing at such a subpar level when it comes to the NIL arms race. But my point is, I don't know who the sugar daddies for baseball are. I know football's got a ton. I know basketball's got some. Because I know a lot of them personally. I have no idea who the sugar daddies for baseball are. Like, who's the sugar daddies? Who's the ones that are coming together and like, no, we got enough money. Baseball's our sport. We love it.
You give us money. Hey, you call us when that recruit's coming in.
Yeah.
You call us and tell us, hey, and we'll put together a number. We'll put together a package for this, and we'll put together a package for that. You tell us what the number is, and we can work on that.
Yeah.
As opposed to Texas One Fund, which is like, all right, well, this we got to plan our budget for everything.
Yep.
There's someone whose budget can shift.
Pretty much. And that's why, like I said, I know the boosters and donors get calls about, hey, we're trying to retain this player and keep them from the transfer portal, so we, might need a little help with this. That's how those things work. And right now they are above board and well within the NIL law, and that's great. For baseball, though, there needs to be an effort here. I can't really understand how they are so low in terms of NIL compensation, or ranked so low in NIL compensation. And like I said, bang for their buck, they're actually doing pretty good, considering the rest of the college sports world definitely weaponizing NIL at this point, and Texas baseball should be in that conversation. So we'll see if those numbers improve. Maybe we'll see some signs of that even this offseason. Okay, let's talk real quick. We'll come up next and we'll talk about the Astros, go Astros, and the Rangers, and Shohei Ohtani, who is by far and away the best story in sports. We should be talking about it more. We'll do so coming up next right here on Ball Don't Lie on 104.9 The Horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. Let me tell you about our friends over at Apple Leasing, because they want to be your friends too. As a matter of fact, you need friends like our friends over at Apple Leasing, because we know that trying to find a new car can be a stressful, time-consuming, and a really difficult process, trying to go to different dealerships, price shopping to make sure you got the right price and the right payment plan for your budget. Also, trying to find the perfect car for you and your family. Is it an SUV or is it a sedan? And who's got time to go to all the different dealerships? You got a job. You got stuff to do. You got kids. You got a family. Hey, you got a lot on your plate. Our friends at Apple Leasing, they understand this. So all they ask you to do is reach out to them, 512-346-9977, or visit them online at appleleasing.com and give them all the details. Let them know what kind of car you want. Let them know what kind of price you're willing to pay, what kind of payment plan that's compatible with your budget. You give them all the details, they'll do all the hard work. They'll go price shop for you. They'll compare all the prices. If you got a current lease, they can help you get out of that lease and get into a brand new and better lease with Apple Leasing. They can do all that for you. And all it takes is one phone call or one click on Apple Leasing's website, and you'll get a quote on any make or model vehicle that you want. They can even give you an estimate on the value of your trade-in right over the phone. They have what they call a simple interest, easy lease, which gives them a lot more flexibility, which allows you to have a lot more possibilities and options to help you find the vehicle that fits you best, but more importantly, the vehicle that fits your budget best. Time is money, and my friends at Apple Leasing, they're in the business of saving you both. So give them a call, 512-346-9977. That's 512-346-9977, or visit appleleasing.com. That's appleleasing.com. All right, welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. It is a Top of the Charts Tuesday. That's when the Idillionaire, Patrick Davis, takes jams that reach the top of the Billboard charts on this day in history, and that makes up a Top of the Charts Tuesday. So appreciate all of his efforts DJing a Top of the Charts Tuesday for us. 512-337-3776. That's the number to the Specs text line. You also hit us up via Twitter. I'm at Rod Babers in the Twitterverse, and my man Patrick at It's Patrick Davis in the Twitterverse. All right, tonight you will have both the Astros and the Rangers in action tonight. I believe that Rangers game is going to be first pitch around 7:05, something like that. And the Astros are also going to be in action tonight. They're facing the Cardinals tonight. Framber Valdez is going to be on the mound for the Astros. Go Stros! And Framber's been hot lately, actually. He's got a 2.27 ERA, second best in the AL, but he actually, and that's with a 7-5 record, but he's 4-1 in his last 6 starts, 1.5 ERA in his last 6 starts. He's allowed 2 or fewer runs in 11 of his 15 starts. So usually when Framber Valdez is on the mound, Astros fans can breathe a little easier because he's been dealing up there. Also, Astros won their first extra inning game last game against the Dodgers. First time they've won an extra inning game this year. They're 1-6 now in extra inning games. They have not been great, like down the stretch. Anytime they got to go to extra innings.
No, and it's been sad because that bullpen was so good for so long that was kind of always the ace in the hole, and it has just been crumbling.
Yeah,
Presley has not looked at all like the closer.
Man,
in the past.
he's
you may be
bad.
looking for trying to figure out who you can put in there. Stanek still looks pretty good. I know we can say Stanek blew the game on Saturday night on a balk, but that was questionable, and that was also pitch clock stuff because basically he saw 3 seconds left on the pitch clock. He was stepping off to call time as a pitcher, but when he stepped off, the umpire, the ref behind him basically said, no, you stepped off before they called time. So that's a balk. You stepped off the mound after making a motion.
A technicality.
Technicality, which cost the game, and that was pretty annoying to lose a game on a technicality.
Well, especially now because the Astros could use every dub they get. Because the Angels seem to be keeping hope alive, if you will, of trying to get to the postseason. The Astros, remember at one point they got to 12 games above 500. And I think that was around early June. I thought to myself, okay, they figured it out. They're done struggling to start the season. They're about to hit their groove. And then they dipped again to just 6 games above 500. And I believe they've lost 12 of the last 18.
Yeah, I believe they're road games, too. I believe that Dodgers game was the first road game they won. They lost 12 road games in a row, which is bad.
It's just, exactly. So it's not, that's the injuries are a big part of why the Astros are struggling. The worst injury luck they've had since 2016. This is they started their championship run. But not only that, on top of them playing bad, and maybe it's a chicken or the egg, maybe the injuries are causing them to have very inconsistent play, and they're not playing really well, and they're not playing with a lot of confidence. But they also just have some bad outings. They're just playing bad. They can't hit very well. They still have one of the best ERAs in baseball. Hell, may have the best team ERA in baseball. But they don't have timely hitting, clutch hitting. And that's something that the Astros have been, really dependent upon during this championship run. So Astros facing the Cardinals tonight. They haven't faced the Cardinals in forever. Things like 2019 is the last time they faced the Cardinals. It's been like 4 years since they last faced the Cardinals. So that'll be a little bit of a treat for Astros fans who haven't seen them face the Cardinals in a while. Rangers, on the other side, their loss to Detroit was kind of dumbfounding because they lost 7-2. They only had 2 solo home runs, so they really couldn't get any consistent offense or run support. But Detroit, you had thought the way Detroit started the game that they were going to get blown out in boat race. Their starting pitcher, he went down 15 pitches in with an injury. I believe that was I think Matthew Boyd, I believe is his name. He's a starter. And then the reliever, Will Vest, I believe is his name, he goes down with an injury too. So about 30 pitches in, both of their 2 pitchers to start that game end up going down with injury. They started the game shorthanded on their starting pitching staff because they got 2 starting pitchers who are out with injuries, Eduardo Rodriguez and Matt Manning. Both of those guys out with injuries, and Rodriguez is the ace for them. So the assumption was after, struggling with their pitching and having the injuries that the Rangers were just going to just lay this mollywop the Detroit Tigers. That did not happen. Actually, the mollywhopping was done by the Tigers, who only won 6 games prior to this one in June, had been swept 3 different times so far this season. I mean, they had a lot going on, but, man, Detroit found a way to rally and put it on the Rangers. I think the Rangers were distracted. Two things distracted them. They're playing the Astros later this week. That's distracting. That's a rival. And this is a big year for the Rangers because they're thinking about, hey, this is the year we prove ourselves. Maybe the year we cement ourselves as a division leader, not the Astros. And All-Star break. It's the last homestand for the All-Star break. So they're thinking about vacation. Yeah. And not only vacation, but right before the vacation, we got to whip these Astros. And then we'll go on a vacation. So they just distracted, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna hope they're distracted in the series this weekend.
Yes, that would be awesome. If I don't think they will be. They would be their best
for the Astros. Altuve is out again today with that bruised heel, but Dusty said he may be able to be played by tomorrow, so he'll definitely be back by that series.
Yeah, and they're starting to put together a timeline for Yordan as well.
Yeah, that's gonna be it's gonna be post All-Star break, but they're putting together that timeline.
That'll be good.
Brantley is also starting to throw, so hopefully he'll be able to actually progress up to the point and then be able to not have the discomfort and get back in the lineup at some point the All-Star break, because that helps you out a ton too.
You need it, man.
Because then you have that outfield now you have three guys in that outfield who are really good players with Kyle Tucker, Alvarez, and Brantley. And, then you fill it with Jake Myers or Chas McCormick if Dusty Baker does not hate him.
Yeah, Dusty Baker does not hate him. Maybe hate's a strong word. Dislike.
But, if you're not going to play Chas McCormick, I'm sure somebody will out there be there. Maybe you can get another pitcher, maybe someone for the bullpen or something for him.
When the Rangers do face the Astros later this week, they'll be hoping that they can remedy their hitting issues with runners in scoring position. How about this? Batting average over the last 3 months with runners in scoring position for the Rangers. April, they were hitting .331. With runners in scoring position. Just killing it. In May, .323. Still killing it with runners in scoring position. Talking about clutch hitting. In June, .248 with runners in scoring position. That is a huge drop-off. That's been the biggest issue. Some people said they're leaving a lot of runners stranded on base. What I found, there's not a lot of difference between April, May, and June with the number of average runners left on base for the Rangers. It was 6.2 runners stranded on average in April, 7 in May, and 8 in June. So I guess it is increasing, but not at a exponential rate. So I don't think it's that. The batting average also, if you look at the overall batting average when they leave those runners stranded, .257 in April, .286 in May, and .269 in June. So also been relatively stable there. Strikeouts per game, 8.8 it's 8.7 in April and May, 8.8 in June. So also not a lot of change there. The biggest issue has been their batting average with runners in scoring position, and it's .248 as compared to .323 and .331. So that's got the clutch hitting for them. That's got to change. They were 0 of 10 with runners in scoring position versus Detroit, and they left 9 runners stranded on base. So hopefully they continue that versus the Astros. But if they remedy that, they could continue to be the hottest offense in Major League Baseball. That's the only thing that slowed down the Rangers' offense has been them hitting. They're hitting with the runners in scoring position. Run differential, they're still second behind the Rays, plus 147. But I think they're 12 and 11 this month, and most of that is due to lack of clutch hitting. Okay, speaking of clutch hitting, perfect segue. Shohei is all clutch hitting. I mean, this dude is doing things that we have just never seen with human eyeballs before. Shohei Ohtani now leads Major League Baseball in home runs, RBIs, OPS, and slugging percentage, and opposing batting average, and strikeouts per 9 innings pitched. He had 2 days ago, he had a 440-foot home run. It was his 8th 440-foot home run this season, and he's the first player since 1900, so over 120 years since they've been keeping track of it, to have the share of Major League Baseball's lead in home runs hit and batting average allowed on the same day of any given day. And you pretty much can repeat that last part of the stat for the rest of the season as long as he keeps up this pace, that he'll be the first player since 1900 to have a share of home runs hit and batting average allowed. He leads basically the Angels in every category. There's not one category that he doesn't lead the Angels in, and that to me is also cartoonish. that he is the best player on that squad, but also the best player in the league. Leads the Angels in games played, at-bats, hits, batting average, runs batted in, on-base percentage, triples, home runs, stolen bases, total bases, slugging percentage, on base plus slugging percentage, WAR, wins above replacement. And also, on the pitching side, leading the Angels in games started, quality starts, wins, innings pitched, earned run average, strikeouts, and wins above replacement from the pitching staff. So, everything.
Everything.
That's crazy.
Does he finish the year as an Angel?
That's a great question.
That's because to me, we know he can play, we know how to do all that, but if they're not ready to give him the offer, if he doesn't want to stay, if they know that he's not re-signing with them or they're not offering whatever it is,
yep.
His value is astronomically high right now.
Agreed. Yeah, like, it won't ever get any higher. Literally can't get higher than this.
You know, when you talk about a team being a piece away, you're adding 2 pieces when you get them. Mm-hmm. So if you're a team that's a piece away, you're like, well, we'll get 2 pieces. Like, that's what I'm saying. It's not a normal, we get 1 hitter. You're getting a all-star pitcher and an all-star hitter if you make a trade for him. But that means you have to give the value up that you're getting 2 players like that. So
I know, that's the thing, too. Yeah, how's his agent going to play it? But, you want the best hitter and the best pitcher in baseball. Like, you want to pay for both of them? I can't imagine the number he's going to get. Oh. Yeah, I want to see him go somewhere else. I just want to see what the number is going to be. What does it take to lure him away from the Angels? Or if he's a free agent market, what does it take to sign him? Because, if you're the Angels, you got to start making that decision sooner rather than later. You're at the All-Star break now.
Yeah. So I'm saying you're not that far away from the trade deadline. So you are at a point where this is, I'm sure they're having plenty of meetings where they, at the beginning of the season, were like, well, we're going to suck again, so we'll just trade him at the trade deadline. But now I'm sure, you have to say, what's our offer? Are we going to try and offer him an extension during this period instead and just go, let's just try and give him a ton of money, and then we don't have to worry about any of this?
There's going to be a question that we have to pick up, obviously, next show later on this week. Is there a athlete in their sport as good as Shohei Ohtani is at baseball?
Like, as valuable?
It's definitely not as bad. There's not even nobody's as bad as he is because nobody plays both sides like that. I guess basketball, maybe you can throw that out there with somebody
like
who's a
offense,
two-way player.
Defense, but
but like, who's as good at their sport as Shohei is at baseball? Like, he's the best hitter and pitcher in baseball right now. Who's as good at their sport as that? Patrick Mahomes? I don't think he's that good at football. And he's really good.
He's not a great pass rusher.
Exactly. He's not a great safety. All right, we'll come back. We'll wrap it up and put it in the oven right here on Ball Don't Lie. Wonderful, not hard. All right, welcome back to Ball Don't Lie right here on 104.9 The Horn. Getting ready to wrap it up and put it in the oven. If you missed any part of any of the shows, please go to hornfm.com. You can catch up with them on the podcast page. It's just that easy. And before we get out of here, we'll let you know what's on tap for us. Before we get out of here, Patrick, what you got on tap tonight, man? No college baseball. The sports are disappearing.
I know. They're
slowly
really,
but surely, man.
I don't know. I'm going to try and watch this Astros game.
There you go. Go Stros.
That's right. Something there.
Yeah, I guess I'll try to check out some Astros, too. I'm watching a new show on Amazon. Not new show. It's the second season. The Bear. It's a pretty good show. It's about a chef.
The restaurant, yeah.
Yes, it's actually pretty good. It's not bad. If you want a recommendation for a decent show, it's pretty damn good.
Not a comedy, dude.
It's like dark comedy.
There's funny moments in it, I'm sure. Not a comedy. I need comedy.
It's not
no
like
drama whatsoever.
Yes,
no feelings. Just laughs.
I would describe it as a dramedy.
Yeah. I just want.
And you don't like dramedy. No. You want all comedy.
Yeah.
All the time. I feel your life is too damn stressful. I want to laugh.
Stressful.
Yeah. I want to laugh. Hope we made you laugh today. Patrick, appreciate your efforts as always, man. You are the real MVP, and you guys are also the real MVPs for listening. We appreciate you guys more than anything. Appreciate the kind words, too, Chan, on the Specs text line. Remember tomorrow, same time, same place. Remember, the revolution will not be televised. We'll be talking about it right here on Ball Don't Lie. We love you guys. We mean that. Take care of yourselves, but more importantly, take care of each other. Peace.